Everybody. My name is John Bell, and this is the Harbinger Report, episode 22, part 2 of Vault of Nightmare story about his Dogman encounter. Unfortunately, in part 1, we went on for over 2 hours and didn't even get to his encounter because he goes off topic and just goes from story to story, and it's impossible trying to rein him in. You just let him go and do his thing. But I cut off the show right when he was getting ready to start at his story because I wanted to save things fresh just for that. And the show had already been, I think, with 3 hours or something, or at least over two. So, and this one's still over an hour and a half by itself. So at least, and we're gonna pick up there now. I backed it up just a little to overlap with the last show, just for continuity and because I really like the material he was talking about. But it's only like 2 minutes, and then he goes into his story, so it's not long at all. It's very little, but it's important information. Just talking about various issues that are related to the topic right before we jump into it. And I say, well, tell me about your encounter, kind of thing, and how did you find out about Dogman? And then he goes from there, telling his own personal story, which is one of my favorite stories. And by the way, on that topic, I absolutely I can't tell you how much I enjoyed last week's show of just playing that old episode with Vault. I really it's sad to me, all the drama that's come up, and his medical issues that he's still struggling with, and that he was in the last show on in the chat room off on the side, and he talked about how he's, a lot of people were saying, oh, Vault's back, go come back, and he still was adamant that, my health and all, I'm moving on, I'm not coming back. And it really was bittersweet because listening to that show last week, it brought back all these old feelings I had and everything when, of all the shows that I've co-hosted with Vault, either on my channel, my old channel, or his channel. And I tell you, I miss those times, and I miss those stories. Whatever you're talking about or listening to, Vault is a very entertaining person and just has some of the craziest stories I've ever heard. And I love them, and I love listening to them. So, and to many people's dismay, I'm still Vault's friend and will continue to be so. Also, to many people's dismay, I have talked to people that served with Vault overseas in units, military units that back up his story, and they gave explicit details on events and names, locations, operations, nicknames that even the public doesn't know about. Stories like that. Um, so I don't make a lot of that public. I try to keep private information private. And a lot of people, even friends of ours, came to me saying, "Oh, but Vault is accused of this and that," and I'm like, well, instead of just listening to what people say about Vault, you should go call Vault directly and ask him yourself and let him explain it. He explained that stuff to me, and I didn't feel like I could put his business out in the streets, without his permission. I try to be careful in what I do share and what I don't. Um, to that point, Vault did say he could share that he's had 2 strokes, and the last one was quite serious, and he has to have a very expensive operation, that he's trying to get lined up. Otherwise, they say there's an 80% chance he'll have another one, and they say if he has another, um, he probably won't come back. So it's a very serious situation, and his health has absolutely got to come first. Um, I talked to him when he's been in the hospital, and trying to keep up with what's going on, and wishing him the best, and trying to encourage him the best I can in that situation. It's tough things to deal with, health wise, and so it's a scary process. So please keep him in your prayers, and that he does recover his health and can move on with life. They moved to a new area and starting over, and happy to be having things quieter more peaceful life just to try and enjoy things and get by, you know. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent on that, but you get the idea. Um, all right, some things to cover in the news real quick because I like doing that. First of all, last time in, well, maybe I'll swing back to that. In the news, uh, oops, actually, I don't have the article in here. Anyway, this was an article about San Francisco. Says that they're closing their McDonald's chains in San Francisco in certain areas. Probably not the whole state, but or the whole city, but in certain areas in San Fran, they're closing the McDonald's because of all the crime and all of the homeless people and everything else like that that's just getting out of control. And the reason I bring this up is that is a super important thing to understand. When you just have this wide open immigration with illegal immigration, I'll add, with no checks and balances, just open ended, not only are you going to see crime go through the roof, as there's stories every day I'm seeing about that are heartbreaking, of rapes, of murders, of people that don't belong here and shouldn't have been here, you know. But when you allow cities to fall apart like San Francisco, with the homeless situation out of control, with the drug abuse situation out of control, here's what happens. All your economy goes to crap because all your corporations start to pull out. They start to leave. Look at Detroit. When you had the riots in Detroit, you know what happened as a result of that? All of the money people, no matter the color, the money people, the businesses left Detroit. And the town still hasn't fully recovered. If you go through there, it still looks like a war zone, like straight out. You know, I've been through there. I mean, it looks like there was World War III right there. If you wanted to film a a war zone in America, you just go to Detroit. It's all right there. And it's sad. It's really sad. But that's what happened. And you see this happen in San Fran. You're going to see this happen in other places. Companies get fed up with being looted, being robbed, and no respect for authority, no respect for people or the customers or citizens. Until they just start pulling out. So that's important to understand because we're facing this. You know, when you change the demographics overnight in a country to allow 20 million to, some estimates, double that uh, uh, by the end of this administration, countries don't survive that. You don't understand. That's not just being charitable to people. Countries do not survive that. Do not survive. So, you know, that's very important. And one thing people don't understand, like I always bring up, I've gone to other countries like parts of Canada where you can't find any Canadians left because the immigrants came in and drove them all out. And and I've heard horror stories, and the government protects them, not the citizens, not the people they ought to be protecting, people that are born and raised here. And it's not to say we have anything against immigration. I do not. I'm pro immigration. Absolutely. I love other cultures, but especially good parts of other cultures. There's bad parts, just like there's bad parts of American culture. I love the ideals of American culture. Like the Independence Day, everyone just you know celebrated. Although that gets me upset, I tell you. I hear all these people popping off all these fireworks and celebrating independence when I'm like, what are you celebrating? Our independence when we are actually living in a communist fascist oligarchy. And that's not idle words, that's truth. Fascism is defined that when you always hear people, especially today in the cancel culture, throwing out these terms of, oh, you're a fascist, you're a fascist, you're a fascist. Fascism is defined when you have big government, all right, corporations in bed with your government, and the two of them are colluding with each other against you, against the citizen. All right. Like, I'll give you an example. The government wants more communist style censorship and the loss of freedom of speech. Well, because we've got laws in place to stop that, the government works hand in hand with the corporations that own that have influence, but also the corporations that own social media sites, and they just kind of lean on them a little bit and say, "Hey, we want more censorship." You see what I'm saying? That's communism. That's communism. Communism does not allow opposition. It censors it. It silences it. It eliminates it. That's not American. Despite what people hear in the news and believe today, it's not American values to censor anybody, no matter what they're saying. Now, we do say we don't want to allow people calling for violence, right? And I can certainly understand that, um, to a point. I mean, there's a point with that too. Also, to quote JF Kennedy, when you make when you make it impossible for people to have their regress, then the only solution eventually is violence. And we don't want violence. We don't want to get to that point. And things are getting so overheated. And that's another thing. Is speaking of the overheatedness in our culture, this DEI BS. All right, everything like, okay, you can't be racist unless it's against a white person, and then it's okay. You can't talk bad about people's religion unless it's Christianity, and then it's okay. No, that's wrong. If you believe that racism is wrong, then it's racist to be racist against white people too. And I'm sorry to tell you, not every white person on the planet is responsible for things that took place in the past. That's not, you're responsible for what you do and your actions and your character or moral fiber. I'm not responsible for what even my parents have done or their parents. You know, that's ridiculous. Everything today is I want to blame everybody else, but I can't accept any personal responsibility. Like these shows, right? Like the crashing Disney network, or all these movies that are just trash now because it's all wokeism and DEI BS, and fans don't like it, especially when you hijack existing products that fans have grown up to love, and you don't care anything about the fan base, you don't care anything about the story. All you care about is, we're going to use this as a vehicle to push our own personal woke agenda on an audience that doesn't want it. And you wonder why things are failing. Oh, but then it's the fans' fault. They're the racist ones. No, it's not the fans' fault. It's your fault for trying to take what fans were loved and then twist that into your own personal agenda. That's absolutely wrong and evil and racist. So in Hollywood right now, that's everything. Look at the Warhammer show for Amazon TV network with Henry Cavill, you know, absolute trash. Same thing. Look at the Acolyte trash that Disney put out. I mean, trash on top of trash on top of trash. I mean, just insane. I don't have to go there. But here's the thing. This is all by agenda, and it's not just bad people that are the top of these companies. It's, you look at the boards of these companies like Vanguard, like BlackRock, all right? They're the ones pushing these agendas, and they don't care if Disney's losing money. They've got more money than they can ever spend. They care about pushing their agenda, especially on our young children that have impressionable minds, that don't have age enough to realize what times were like before in our country, to the fascist communist oligarchy that we've got today. And again, that's not small words. That's what we're going into. The left that control everything in our country right now uh, is completely communist. They're turning institutions like our federal agencies into communists. I mean, the ATF right now is just, we hate all guns and gun owners. Really? I mean, it's just, our country is not even the shadow of what it was a few years ago, or the values and ideal systems of our country. And that's a shame. We need to pass those on to the young, to our children. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. So it's just an important point that needs to be stressed. All right. Going off of that topic, Okay, future mind control machine for descendants. All right. So now they're talking about they've got technology where instead of putting people in prisons, they can just rewire your brain. That doesn't sound scary at all, does it? All right. This is hugely important. All right. Um, a migrant that was arraigned for a shooting. All right. That claims to be in a gang that smuggles guns, said that in November, migrants are going to try to overthrow the U.S., that they've been given guns. All right. Now, this is a theme that's super important and I've been talking about for a while. Remember, I told a story a while back that I heard this show where this man in Britain, in England, he owned like a hotel, and the government went to him and said, "Hey, we want to rent out your hotel for immigrants." And the man said, "Oh, I think I'm doing something charitable to help people. That sounds good. Okay." So he does that, and they start bringing all these strange boxes to his warehouse, and they're all numbered according to all the immigrants staying in his hotel now that have taken over his hotel. He asked the military what's in these boxes. The military told him to go pound sand, which is typical military answer. Well, this man felt like, hey, this is my warehouse. I want to know what's in it. He went and opened some of the crates, and guess what he found? He found machine guns. He found ammunition. He found bulletproof armor. All right. He found high-powered weapons like bazookas and stuff, AT4s, things like that. And they were all numbered to numbers of migrants that were staying in his hotel. All right. So what the hell's going on there? This man claims that he moved all those weapons to an undisclosed location. And he says he refuses to tell the government what he did with them. And he says he doesn't, and he went public with the story. And he says he doesn't care what happens to him. He will not be a part of his own countrymen being attacked by these immigrants. All right. This is a long standing story. In the United States, there have been more and more stories about illegal immigrants crossing the border. And again, that's like 90% military aged men. All right. 90% military aged men. And when they're coming across the border, many of them are finding they actually have ID cards, little ID cards that I usually hold up a little card. I don't have it. They have little ID cards that identify them as UN military soldiers. UN military soldiers. Okay. Why is the UN sending illegal immigrants that identify as UN military soldiers across our border into our country? What do you think's going on there? What do you think the plan is? It's not good. Certainly not legal. It's certainly not to protect Americans or our country. Why are they doing? And it's our government that's doing this. It's not Russia. I'm sure China has a hand, especially when there's multiple reports of Chinese troops not only infiltrating the U.S. through open borders, but also staging troops in Canada and in Mexico. Stories like that all the time. And China spouting off at the mouth how they're going to take over the U.S. On a regular basis. They're like, oh, I've read their own papers from their own generals that have said, well, it's a shame we got to kill all the Americans, but we need their land for our people. So what are you going to do? Really? Really? What are you going to do? Wow, we're starting war with Russia, saying, come on, I dare you, hit me. I dare you. Oh, look, I'm gonna send missiles in your city, in your town. I dare you. I'm gonna kill all your people. Oh, I'm gonna attack your malls. We're gonna assassinate your people. I dare you. I dare you. Do something. Do something. Really? Really? That's how nuclear wars start, real quick. Oh, by the way, I didn't post a picture of this. The only person calling for peace again in this war, World War III, that's already started. All right. I have no illusions. World War III has already started. The only person, the only world leader calling for peace is President Putin, who says, I want to get the world leaders together. I want to end this and bring peace. And yet, no world leaders will respond. And they continue to escalate while blaming Russia for the escalation. They're not the ones starting this. They're not the ones escalating this. They're the ones saying we want peace. We want to stop fighting. We want to stop war. All right. Of course, you listen to the globalist media, they're going to tell you a different story. And friends of mine, unfortunately, are completely brainwashed by whatever Fox News and CNN tells them. And that's a real shame. It's propagandist, globalist news, and you should not be listening to it. Listen to independent media. There are over 800 prison camps in the United States, all fully operational and ready to receive prisoners. They are all staffed and even surrounded by full-time guards, armed guards. But they are all empty. These camps are operated by FEMA. 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 All right. Why? So wait, you got illegals coming in, military age men, millions and millions of them. Some claim they're being armed, and some we know are carrying UNID military cards, identifying them as UN soldiers. And then we've got dissident camps. Do you think those camps are for those illegals? No, they're for us. They're for us. And you got all these politicians right now, Democrats, that are calling for the removal of conservatives from the United States that need to be sent to re-education camps. Imagine that. Imagine that. Again, this article or this story, this guy says that they're being told to attack in November. Why November? What's happening in November in our country? Could we be having an election? Well, wait a minute. If there's a crisis and an emergency going on, we might just have to postpone that election, right? We might just have to have some martial law. Then see what tyranny looks like. You know, it's not the conservatives that are starting all this. They're not the ones that built these camps. They're not the ones bringing in all these soldiers. I also told y'all a story about a friend of mine right here in my hometown that he worked at a migrant camp here that most people here don't even know about. I only found out about it because he worked security for that migrant camp. And they were Muslims, and a lot of these people were just trashy people. Not to say that all Muslims are bad people, but these people were just trash. One of them beat a woman with a crowbar. That's really what you want to bring in your country, right? When he had to search the guy's room in lieu of his arrest, luckily they did arrest him. He found the guy had a UN military ID card on him in his apartment. I think he also said he had like some body armor and stuff like that in there too. But again, why? Why? What's going on? What's the bigger picture going on here? You see what I'm saying? Then, like I said too, you look at the UN when they have got pages on the UN replacement migration. Look up UN replacement migration. They've got entire websites and divisions of the UN dedicated to replacement migration. I call that weaponized replacement migration. And I did a show about it a couple episodes ago called Modern Warfare, because modern warfare has taken over countries without standing armies or firing a bullet. It's flooding them with so many illegal immigrants and militants to where you can't survive. And along to that comes our next point story. This, I should have done a better job blowing this up. These are fires at manufacturing plants across the United States. Now, these are all recent. These were just within the last year or last few years. All right. And it's an insane number of oops. These manufacturing, mostly food companies, have blown up. Okay. This is not a coincidence. This is a plan. All right. This is a plan. All while they're starting up, talks again about the whole COVID, new, not COVID. They're talking about more pandemics coming. All right. We just had the COVID pandemic, and thank God we got through that. but now they're talking about more pandemics coming. So that's a concern. People are concerned about their safety. The government shutdowns caused a lot of economic drama and stuff like that. So I won't go into further detail on that because of the communist censor system that we have to face on here. All right. All right. Lighter side of news now. So that was the heavy stuff. Lighter side. Um, they claim there's a story that they claimed that in Japan, near Fukushima, I think it was Fukushima, it might have been Nagasaki or Fukushima, where one of the nuclear bombs went off. Somebody was investigating there recently, and they claim that they found this cell phone that they identify as a iPhone 13, but yet they say it's been there since the bomb went off. A broadcast from 1980 showing a later version iPhone, possibly 13. The first phone wasn't released until 2017. This guy thinks it's a mirror. Did a time traveler go back in time with an iPhone? So in 1980, they found what they believe is an iPhone 13 that wasn't released until 2017 for the first time. So interesting. I don't know how much validity to there that is, but I should do an episode sometime in the future on time travel because that is a very real thing, and we're knee deep in that. We do. The last I understood it, we have six different forms. Our government has access to six different forms of essentially time machines. All operate on different physics, but it's six different ways that they can use to either go back in the past or go in the future. And do believe that if they've got that ability, that they're messing all that crap up. And there's ripple effects of this. All right, I'll get into later, like the Mandela effect. All right, if you're aware of the Mandela effect, if not, look that up. It's very interesting. I might have covered that a little bit in the past, but I'll do a show about time travel in the near future, and I'll cover some of that stuff just to bring some viewers up to speed. Now, again, on some lighter stuff and helpful information. So I caught this show from this doctor, Dr. Eric Berg, DC. Um, he has a great channel on TikTok where he's talking about a lot of important health issues that are affecting a lot of people. Just common stuff, nothing fancy, nothing scary. Just things like, how do you deal with diabetes, or and he gives suggestions and no medications. He just talks some vitamins, maybe supplements, simple things that normal people can do that can just he claims improve their health. So that's important. I think worth checking out. To that effect, one of the things he talks about is he talks about a lot of men, especially as they get older, faced enlarged prostates. All right, and he suggests, from his medical background in nutrition science level, he says that there's a chemical that's a common in tomatoes that can help people that might have enlarged prostates. And he says if you cook these tomatoes, and add olive oil, a healthy fat like olive oil and extra virgin olive oil, he says that will help bring out more of that compound that's so beneficial for the prostate. And he recommends having a tomato meal like that maybe twice a week. And he said could possibly help people's enlarged prostates. So that's something that people can try. And one thing about getting healthy, our country is very focused on reactive cures or health. When a lot of times I think it's important to be focused on proactive health, like eat healthier and exercise more. I mean, those two things right there can stave off most health issues, a large number of them, and I'm just talking very in general here, nothing severe. Now, here's something else interesting that doctor had to say. Many of you have heard that when you take the vitamin K2, I mean the vitamin D3, and this he says got D here. He's specifically referring to vitamin D3, which is supposed to be sunlight in a vitamin form. Um, you know that it's always recommended that you take K2, the vitamin K2, along with vitamin D, and they were just talking vitamins here, no medications or anything else like that. And it's only a suggestion from a doctor. And I suggest you go look him up and follow his suggestions if you feel that that's something important. The K2 helps the vitamin D3 to, function better. But the reason I bring that up, a lot of people know this already. I hear people saying it all the time. But something else this doctor added to that that I wasn't aware of is this. He said you want to add magnesium. You want to add magnesium when you take when you take D3. Getting mixed up on all these words. Uh, just add the simple magnesium, and that just helps the K2 the K3. That helps the vitamin D2 along with the K2 to function better, to do its job in your body, and just for overall health. All right. So, and again, that's just vitamins coming from a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I suggest you go check out his channel. Um, Here's his name here referenced. You can go check out his information. He's got a lot of good videos on just simple things like that, vitamins, supplements that can help improve overall health. So I think that's worth taking a look at. Um, my parents have both passed away, sadly, and I miss them a great deal. And if I can pass along any information that helps, other people to live healthier lives, then that's great. I'm all for that. Okay, moving on. We got the hurricane. All right. And this got up to a category 5 at one point. Once it hit the Gulf, it went down quickly um to a just a tropical storm. All right. And now it's projected to gain some strength, as you see here. And this is from a live radar I took just before the show started. Um, You see here, it's projected to gain strength in the Gulf and go back up to a category 1. Now, as soon as it hits land, almost every time it'll almost immediately lessen the storm down back to a tropical storm from a category 1, as you see projected here in this model. And now it's projected to swing through Texas and into the top of Louisiana. All right. But by that time, it's just a tropical storm, which, in Louisiana, that's something we're extremely used to. So that's just some bad weather. It's not anything major by that point. But please keep your prayers up for all the people that may have been affected by this storm. It did hit as a category 2 over some small islands. All right. So we want to keep those people in our prayers. Also, a friend of mine named Glamham made a report on her channel about this. All right, look, Glamham, bottom left here. She does ham radio communications, and I love her. She's amazing. She's out of California. She lives close to the Hollywood sign, where I used to work right under the Hollywood sign in California when I studied to be a movie producer. Um, but anyway, she is into ham radios and stuff like that, and she's brilliant to that stuff, and she does a very entertaining little show on TikTok. She's got a little bit of YouTube, but she mostly does TikTok channels. You can find her mostly there. But she's been pointing out anomalies that people have been sending, especially around Antarctica lately. That's got some crazy stuff. And but anyway, in this one, this is from the hurricane recently, and she's pointing out, you see this circle at the bottom right of the screen with the little hand pointing towards it? Here's a better picture of that. Look at that. That is some type of seismic phenomenon, like um, like radio induced seismic frequencies. But look how distinct that pattern is. And at the edge of the storm, I mean, it's almost suggestive that some government used artificial advanced technology to alter or push, guide this storm, is the idea. There's another picture of it. Look how perfect that anomaly is, and how it makes a perfect pattern from a electromagnetic frequency or wave. All right, that's causing this, and it really looks like it was steering this thing a little bit. All right, and do believe 100% we have the technology to do this kind of stuff today. It's scary. We do have the technology to do that. So, all right, now all that out the way, just some important. I like to hit on some current themes of important news going on around the world, stuff you might not hear about in the globalist news media. Um, the things that are important and things to be aware of, especially things that threaten our country or our people. Because I am a patriot, and I love our country, and I love our people, and I love immigrants too, so long as it's legally done and within reason, not just this. It's just like a think if you're on what do you call it? Like you're on a ship, a cruise ship is sinking, and they've got like the little boats for the crew members and all to get into safety boats to get away. They're only designed to hold so many people. If you flood that thing with more people than it's designed to hold, it sinks and everyone dies. And that's what's going on in our country right now. When I lived in California, nine hospitals had to close because of illegal immigration. That means nine hospitals that citizens bought and paid for no longer had access to medical care in the way that they did because the systems were overrun. And that was years ago. That was before the craziness we have going on today. So these are important issues. And one thing I don't want to my channel to be political. There's too much heated crap out there. Now, I state my views and opinions before anybody, but I try to avoid not being just political. But I do want to address some of the important threats that are facing our country, and some of the things we talked about today are some of the biggest threats to our country. All right, that and our government starting World War III, which it should not be doing. And World War III has already started. It just hasn't gone hot yet. All right, I'm former military. Um, I know what I'm talking about. All right, I wish I didn't. Now on to the show. You might notice I'm wearing a hat today. That's kind of my merch before dark. And that's an important theme because you hear Vault refers to boogers, right? Vault grew up with him and his family referring to Bigfoots that were common as boogers. That's just what the old timers called them. Now, what's funny about that is where in the world did they get the name booger from? I think I have a good theory. I asked Vault, he doesn't know. All right. At least he didn't tell me any answer, if he does. So I have a theory on that. All right. And my theory on that is hold on. I decided I'm going to try and text Vault and see if I can get him to come jump in the chat room. When I'm talking, I can't really monitor the chat. So I need my moderators to watch out for, crazy people coming over. If you see crazy people coming in saying stupid stuff, please get rid of them. Otherwise, I don't care if people disagree or have different opinions. That doesn't bother me. But if someone's actually causing trouble, then let's get rid of them, moderators, because I can't monitor the chat at the same time. But let's see. I'm gonna hit up Vault and try and tell them that I'm doing a show and see. It was kind of fun, I think, last week when Vault came on, and the fans really enjoyed that, and I enjoyed it as well. So I just sent him a text, and hopefully he might join the chat. It's always fun when that happens. Okay, so now, I was saying I have a theory on why they called the Bigfoot boogers. All right, and that theory is this: I'm a fly fisherman, and I took a class one time on tying flies for fly fishing. And one of the number one flies that works like almost more than any other, not all the time, but it's like your one go-to that if you only had one, this is the one you want to have. And it's called a woolly booger. And it's just a very large, hairy fly. All right. And it just attracts a lot of fish year round. All right. It's an awesome, it's my favorite fly. And it's called a woolly booger because that's what it looks like. All right. So I think the old timers that were fishermen, that might have been a term that was in their terminology. And when they came across one of these big hairy things, they just called it a woolly booger, and then it became known as a booger. You know, people always give me a hard time. Man, why they call these things booger? And a lot of people originally. So I took Valt's story that he has of Booger Valley, which is a great story. All right, and I turned it into a movie. And at first, I was calling it Booger Valley, but I got a lot of pushback, especially from friends of mine in Hollywood that are in the business, and they really didn't care for the term Booger Valley. It just some people I thought it was a good title, but some people just get hung up on that, and so they all encouraged me to come up with a different name for the movie. And I did another thing too. I did have to change the movie from the original story, and Vault even got a little upset with me about that at one point. I told him in the very beginning that that's what I was going to do, and um, the reason why is Vault has a very good story, and he does a good job of telling it online. If you go look at Boger Valley by Vault of Nightmares online, if it should be still available. Haven't looked in a while. He does a good job, and it's a good story, but it's not a movie. See, there's set rules that are proven over time that work for movies, for novels, and different genres of storytelling. So he had a good story that makes a good audible story, but it's not a film. And in order to make that into a movie, you've got to fit kind of square pegs in a round holes, if that makes sense. All right. Um, so you got to shave off the edges a little bit or add a little bit here and there in order to fit a movie format. Now I've made it into a movie, and I think it's a pretty good movie. It's not the greatest movie ever, but I think it's a good film. And as a professionally trained film person, and as someone who's been a film enthusiast my whole life and have seen, I mean, there's not too many movies known that I haven't seen. Um, so that said, I think it's a good film, and I think it's going to do well if we can raise the money to make it, and that's what I'm trying to do. I had noticed down here at the bottom, I've got a Gogi Productions. That's the name of my company, but I got a splash page for beforedarkmovie.com. And if you go there, you can sign up for a an email list and to help try to promote the film. I'm trying to build this up because I'm going to movie producers and I'm pitching the film, and I'm trying to see if I can't raise the money to get the film made. And at some point, we might start a GoFundMe or something like that, just as a ground roots effort to make it. Um, with the strikes that went on in Hollywood, that's really put a harder time on everything because the movie industry just came to a screeching halt. And since it started up again, you've got all the SAG actors and Writers Guild and all that are, itching to get all their projects in. So it's very difficult right now to get films made, plus with the economy and inflation. So it's very complicated. So one idea is I might even turn it into a novel and just post it on online as like sell it as a novel on Amazon or something like that. Problem is, again, that's not a movie, and I can do it, but it would take a long time to reshape the movie again to fit a novel format. It's not as easy as it sounds. It took me over a year to write the script for this movie, and I'm still not finished with it. I have a first draft done, and that means it's not polished. It's not ready to be sent out technically to producers. The thing is, I'm hesitant on spending the time to do that myself because anyone I end up working with is going to hire someone to rewrite it anyway. So I hate to rewrite it just to rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it again, especially as I don't have the time and money for all that. So I'm trying to see if I can't find a way to get that to work. And I've got some meetings coming up, so I'm excited about that. Hopefully, it works out. Um, so, and I've got some other little irons in the works too. So, but just limited time. So, yeah, there's the hat promoting the movie, and of course the poster promoting the movie. It's going to be good. It's a scary movie. All right. Big shocker. It's about a Bigfoot that attacks a family farm. um, but it's good. I call it Jaws of the Woods. That tells you everything you need to know about it. It's Jaws of the Woods. In fact, I love Jaws so much. I was like, I'm just going to model this on top of the framework of Jaws. And it worked perfectly. It worked really well. And it gave me some great ideas and directions to go with the film. I'm sure a lot will be tweaked from now to when it's done, if I can get it completed and finished. And if I can get this done, I want to make a part 2. And the part 2 I want to make is the story that Vault tells tonight. All right. So without further ado, I've taken up enough of your important time. Let's get to Vault telling his story.
It was, to me, it was funny because, like I said, when I grew up and learned about books, I thought they were everywhere.
Right.
When I got older and got away from the homestead and figured out that these things, when everybody's like laughing and joking, you start talking about this hairy, tall creature that could rip your freaking arms off or rip a barn door off or tear your house down around you. It is not common everywhere else. It was like, really? They're making fun of people and stuff, and I'm thinking, dude, that shit's true.
Right.
And to them, it's like, like I can remember the first time it come. I forgot where exactly we were, but this show come on called what was the name of that show? Not Leonard Nimoy, but what was that guy? Unsolved Files, whatever
Mystery.
it was. Yeah, that's it. This thing come up about Bigfoot, and they were showing the Patterson-Gimlin film or bits and pieces of it, and they were talking about Bigfoot. And a lot of the other guys was like, "Oh man, that bull crap." And I was like, "What do you mean bull crap?" Yeah, that's a booger.
Right.
I'm thinking, and that's when I started realizing these things aren't normal everywhere else. Everybody else don't believe in them, and they don't have the same beliefs. People don't believe that there are things that go bump in the night out there, and if you go messing with it, you probably won't come back.
Right.
There are evil spirits. There are negative spirits. There are spirits that never were a human or never were an animal and are just bad in general.
Right. Like you got the skinwalkers and the Wendigos.
Yep. And then you got a thing called a Nawarin. Yeah, I don't want to go into talking about those, or kind of a like on the air, so many people listening and getting to think about it. It's actually think of the Slender Man.
Okay.
It actually was a made up thing that was brought into existence by enough people thinking and talking and reacting with this thing that brought something that's not supposed to be here to our plane.
Now that's some craziness, but that's exactly what seems to have taken place.
Yeah, that's the only way that can be, logically and scientifically, that is the only way you can describe that.
Now, is that similar to what happened with the rake, or no?
Yeah, I do believe.
Because the rake started off as just an online story like creepypasta, but there are so many people who claim that they're seeing encounters of exactly something that fits that description.
That's what I was going to say. It fits close enough to the description. Either it is that, or it is something that's being misidentified that is not known. Because that happens a lot. Now, I hope we get to talk about this, about misidentified Bigfoot. That I believe because you can go back and read these reports. It's not just me talking about them. You can go back from the 70s when they first started coming out and stuff like that. Misidentified. I believe Bigfoot. You got Bigfoots that are described with like a bear-shaped face or a lion-shaped face, or even a sheep squatch.
Yep.
What if these are
some of the best Bigfoot material? I mean, Dogman material I've found have been where people are claiming they're Bigfoots.
Yeah, well, until I figured out about Dogman, I thought they were just misshapen Bigfoot.
So that's what I
Now,
wanted to get to. How did
that
you come across and find out about Dogman?
accidentally, like I said, I'm not sure about the year. I'd have to go back and ask Miss Lakeia because Miss
Sure.
Lakeia was with me.
Right.
We actually were coming back from one of my family's Christmas to where I was carrying Miss Lakeia home.
Okay.
And we were literally in the middle of nowhere. And we were going down the road, and it's like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. It's in between 8 or 9 o'clock, somewhere in there. I know that. I know that for a fact. It wasn't, past 10 o'clock. And
Okay.
we're going down through there, and actually, she seen it before I seen it. She goes, "Wow, look at that dog, that big dog out there. It's probably 75 yards, maybe a little further, maybe a little closer off the side of the woods." And it was an area that had been logged. And then it was, if you ever seen a block of woods logged out on both sides, it'll be still big, tall, standing woods and bushes and everything. And it'll just be everything else that looks like a bomb went off. It's just flat, no more woods. Well, it looked like it was coming from an area that had been logged into a non-logged area, if that makes sense to you. And it's way off the side of the road. Like I said, it's way before we get to it. It's now at the side of the road to where it's standing is probably 75 yards, maybe a little closer, maybe a little further. It's dark, so it's hard to judge distance like that in a moving vehicle at night and all other crap going on. I didn't think about it back then. After this happened, though, I did think about it. It made me start thinking. It's kind of like what they say, hindsight 2020. Like I said, we're ways off from this thing, and there is a big bright moon out. Lakeia sees this thing and she goes, "Man, look at that really big dog!" And there's no houses around there. I looked at it and I said, "No, I think that's a coyote or maybe a wolf." And we're getting closer and closer, and as we get closer, this thing gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where, uh, it's the size of a freaking cow. It's way bigger than anything should be. And this thing has determined, but as we're getting closer to it, I noticed it turned. And instead of going into the wood line to be safe, it takes take 2 steps maybe, and it's in a big batch of woods that you couldn't see it. Instead, it turns and starts in an intercepting diagonal to intercept us on the road. And like I said, as it gets closer and we get closer, it gets bigger to the point where, like I said, this thing is the easiest thing I can tell you is, like I said, it's the sight. Think of a bear, the biggest bear you ever seen. That's how big this thing was. It ain't supposed to be. Ain't no canine supposed to be this big. It's moving and acting all like a canine now. It's on all fours, but it's huge. And like I said, it just blew my mind. Well, I've got the gas pedal now because I realize it's trying to intercept us. My foot's to the floor. Wearing a Kia Sportage. I hate that little car. I hated that little son of a bitch. So like I said, it ain't no speed demon, but we're doing well over the speed limit what we're supposed to be doing, because I think this thing's trying to intercept us. And
Right.
we get literally where it's just a few feet outside the driver's side window. I'm looking at it as we driving down the road, and it passes literally. I believe its hair, was scuffed by the back of the vehicle. Now, whether it chased us, I have no freaking idea because I couldn't see. And to be honest with you, I wasn't worried about that. I was armed. I had 3 weapons in the car.
Right.
But when I seen how big this thing was, my first thought is I got to get out of here because I don't have nothing big enough to stop this. Because the way it acted, I believe it was trying to flip the car or run into the car, stop the car. And if it did, I believe it was trying to kill everybody that was in that car.
That would be
And
one thing I can imagine.
yeah, and the thing is, the way I think and everything is way different than most people. I'm thinking I don't have nothing to stop this thing. I can't protect anybody here.
Right.
So the get everybody away, get them in a safe area.
Right. I get it. It's difficult when you feel like you can't protect your family.
Yeah, and so like I said, I'm going on down the road. I'm talking. We probably don't went. I'm going to say anywhere 6 to 8 miles on down the road. If it may not have been that far, it might have been further. Lakay is actually hitting me because I don't know how long she'd actually been talking to me. I'm looking in the rearview mirror, looking in the side mirror. I'm looking down both sides of the road. My foot's still on the floor.
Right.
Weird to me. We ain't far enough away from whatever the hell this was.
Right.
She's
was
actually
trying to get you to slow down.
Yeah. She's hitting me, going, "Hey, slow down! I don't want you to wreck us with this damn thing on the road." I'm like, I don't know. I like what. I don't want to stop. And she goes, "I don't want you to stop either. Slow down, though." Right. She's like, "No, don't stop. No, just slow down." And we start talking there. What? When the hell was that? And I told her, I believe that thing was trying to wreck us. I don't know what that was, but I think it was trying to wreck us on purpose.
Right.
What other and then if it was trying to wreck us, what other reason why it had to wreck us was to try to hurt us or try to kill us? Well, we get back and I drop her off and I go get settled. She gets settled and I just can't let it go. I've never seen nothing like that. And it just, the way it acted, just, I don't know if it's because I thought it was trying to hurt us. And if it was, that means this thing is dangerous. It just piqued my interest where I dove in trying to figure out what this thing was.
Right.
And that's how I got involved with the first dog, the person I talked to. And like I said, I don't drop names on other people's show, but I caught a lot of flack. Well, I didn't catch flack from that one, but after that happened and I talked to this person that he told me what it was, I started looking online and combing through other newspapers and stuff that were around, pretty, I'm going to say they were probably 60 miles around me.
Right.
Looking for any other sightings or anything else that was possibly linked to this thing, and was trying to figure out what I wanted to go out and do like I do with Bigfoot. I wanted to figure out what this was. Is it trying, if this thing is trying to hurt, wreck people and hurt them on the side of the road, maybe this thing, in my head, maybe this thing does need to be neutralized. Because what if I hadn't been paying attention and seen this thing, or Lakaya hadn't been paying attention and seen this thing, I didn't speed up and it hit us, wrecked us.
Right.
What if another unknowingly people come down to, that was my thing. I didn't set out to kill it, but if it was as dangerous as I thought it was, yes, I wanted to neutralize it because I thought that would be the safest thing for civilization around, or however you want to put it. In my head, I thought that was the best. I didn't go out intentionally, but I was set up to where if I had to, I could. Now, understand, that's what I saw that night.
Right.
What we came up against or found was not.
Back up 1 second here. So just for the audience, so after you had this encounter and it piqued your curiosity and you felt like this was a threat to the public, you actually called in some of your team, right?
I called in some guys. Well, I don't. I'm going to say two of the people that was there. Well, I'm going to use their call signs because I think I've used them before. One of them was a lady, Natalia, baddest damn woman besides Miss Lakay I've ever freaking met.
And where was she from?
She has a unique background where her mother was actually a Mossad officer. Her dad was actually a Spetsnaz drill instructor.
Okay.
A match made in hell. Because what they created was, man, I told you before, I'll say it again, and she'll tell you, I'll say it to her face. If I thought she was mad, I would shoot her when she walked in the room.
Right. And for the audience that might not know, we already talked about the Mossad as the Israeli Special Forces. Spetsnaz is the Russian Special Forces. And oftentimes you'll find Spetsnaz and Mossad working together.
Yeah, and for the people that don't know, just look up Spetsnaz. They've got videos where they train. Those guys are not all upstairs. They enjoy hurting each other.
They're one of the only special forces groups that train all the time in live fire.
Yes. Have you to let y'all know? This is one of their drills. This has to do with a barricaded subject on a bus. Apparently, this happens pretty regular over in that area. But they have what's called a boomstick. There is a bomb on the end of a freaking pipe that a person has to go up, stick it against the window, and hold it there and set it off. And have you ever heard of that or seen it done?
I have not. No.
You need to look up a video of that. I sent one to DW one time because I was trying to explain it to him. He's like, "What?" And I sent it to him, and he said, "These sun guns are insane." I said, "Look, that's normal for them. That's actually tuned down. I guess they tuned it down for the video, but yeah, they do some stupid stuff." But anyway, I took her out there with me because, like, now I call people that I knew that wouldn't think I was just totally bonkers, and that I knew I could trust. And if something bad happened, I don't have to worry about it. I know as well as they do. I trust them with my life. I trust them totally. I'd lay my life down for them. Same way the other person I took out is Tank, and the easiest way I can describe Tank is think of Hook white, or with a tan. This dude. Yeah, this dude, I seen him hold up the front of a Willys Jeep while we changed the tire one time.
No.
Yes. I'm telling you, picture, I don't know, picture anybody you think is pretty good size, or, a big guy you seen shooting a M16, AR-15. Think of that. Now, give them a M60 and how small they look and how bulky it is.
Right.
This man shoots a M60 like normal people shoot a M4.
Right.
I've seen him hold a M60 one-handed while it was firing.
Wow.
That is a impressive feat by itself.
I used to carry the hog, and that thing was no joke. It's 22 pounds without ammunition, without a tripod, or without interchangeable barrels. And it certainly puts a hurting on your back when you're humping a while.
Yeah, and he towed it one around all the freaking time.
Right.
Like I said, this is, like I said, this is a big feller. But the funny thing is, he is the nicest, gentlest person you'd ever meet.
Right. Yeah, the biggest guy I know looks like Mr. Incredible. All right, but a real life version from that cartoon, and he's huge. But he looks like the biggest NFL linebacker or linesman even, but yet he's the biggest, softest teddy bear you ever meet. Yeah. So,
to give an idea of his size, like I told you the other night, and I never thought about this until somebody asked me one time, what kind of armor he used. He actually didn't wear plate carriers and stuff because they were not big enough for him.
They wouldn't fit.
Yeah, they wouldn't fit because and he ain't fat. He's got like 1% body fat.
Right.
He's just that freaking huge.
Right.
But like I said, now what was you going to say?
I was saying, okay, so you called this team together and y'all went out tracking this thing. So what happened from there?
We went out to areas that I'd found reports and different just weird occurrences, like cars, people broke down on the side of the road. Now, these are some of the instances I was looking at, and it's hard. Like I said, when you get to doing this, it took me a while to go through and find when I say a general area, think of a 10-mile area, 10 square miles of an area that just had just occurrences that just didn't add up to Bigfoot sightings or Bigfoot, anything that had to do with Bigfoot having anything to do with it, because it just didn't make sense or didn't line up with what I knew that should line up with going on with Bigfoot. Like one of the things was there was 2 instances in this about in the middle of this area where one of them was a lady, one of them was a guy. And you've heard of this before yourself. Me and you talked, off the air and stuff about where this lady had broke down. She made a phone call for assistance. And when someone got out there, they found like the door ripped off and just a bloody trail going off. It looked like carnage all over the place. The other odd thing is the tracks that they were reporting didn't match a Bigfoot.
Right.
They were the way they were describing the tracks were a triangle shaped track in the ground. They didn't. None of them was put down now as canines. It was like a triangle shaped track, and would claw marks and stuff like that left on the doors, left on the inside of the interior of the car and stuff like that. Well, Bigfoot don't have claws. Yes, they do have long fingernails, but they don't have claws. They don't generally look claw looking like marks.
You
So
actually found reports of these things attacking other vehicles.
Yes, like I said, if you know what to start going and looking for and the areas to go look for, and it did help out because at the time, I don't know if I've ever let this be known or not. At the time, I'd retired from what I was doing. I was working as a local officer, and because of me being an officer in a local little town, it gave me a little bit more insight. You know yourself, because you have a law enforcement background. A law enforcement officer will talk to a law enforcement officer where he won't talk to a civilian.
Exactly.
Being able to track stuff that way.
Right.
Well, like I said, I configured this area, and that's where we went, started looking, talking to people. And the stuff that, people were describing, some were describing this bear-looking creature or a Bigfoot creature. And when they would actually start talking about something that looked like a Bigfoot, I would, listen to them. When I got finished, I'd thank them for the time, and, we'd go about their way. That's not what we were looking for. And we'd been probably a week had went by, several days it went by. I think a week had went by. We were out on this one area on this government land that we really wasn't supposed to be on. That's why I don't give locations, because like I said, we wasn't supposed to be there. Anyway, we were going along through there, and like I said, we're cruising along, and we're looking and everything, and all of a sudden, Natalia sees it first. She goes, "What is that under that tree?" And it's probably about 300 yards out. Maybe not quite that far, but I'm guessing at the time, because I really wasn't trying to figure out distance at the time, but just guessing off the top of my head, it's probably 300 yards out. There's something. It looks like it's under. At the time, we didn't realize it was squatted down. It looks like a bear under a cedar tree close to this little creek. Well, I told her, I said, I think it's a bear. But the odd thing is, there's not supposed to be any bear. When I say not supposed to, there's not supposed to be a bear within over 100 miles of this place.
Right.
There ain't no bear supposed to be around there. Well, as we're standing there talking amongst ourselves, and when she's looking through some binoculars, and I'm looking through a spotting scope, not a scope, but a spotting scope.
Right.
And this thing stands up. Well, when I say it stands up on two legs. But the way it's still turned and facing us, first thing that hit me in the head was, that's a squatch. I told her, I said, that's a booger. I said, well, that's not what we're looking for. She goes, that, because she was fascinated. She goes, that's a booger. That's what you've been telling us about? I was like, yeah. She was fascinated. She goes, I never thought I'd get to see one. I was like, yeah, that's not what we're looking for. Let's figure out a way to give him a wide berth. I don't want no problems, and I just want to keep looking for what we're looking for.
Right.
And like I said, now I'm looking. Now later on, like I told you, this is something that I hadn't told beforehand. I'm not looking at it no more. I am looking in a general direction, but I'm not paying it any more attention anymore. I'm actually looking for something to judge, that I can judge for distance about close to it, about where I can go back later and measure, so I can say, well, that booger we saw was X amount probably high, because this was out there and we measured it and it was this high. And she goes, you never told me they look like a bear. I looked at it. I'm looking through it. I take my eye out of it. I look over at it, and I said, what? She goes, you never said it. It had, it kind of resembles a bear. I said, they don't. And I flipped back over on it, and this thing has done turned to almost like a side profile. And it ain't a booger. It ain't no booger I ever saw.
What was the distance?
Like I said, it's still standing under that same tree. It ain't moved. It just turned, and It's got I'm gonna say it was every bit of 300 yards roundabout. Within 25 yards plus or minus. I'm gonna say rough guesstimate.
Was it aware of your presence at that point?
I do believe it. I believe it realized it was something around, but
Right.
it didn't. I don't believe it knew exactly where we were, because when it turned, it was sniffing the air.
Right.
So like I said,
Okay.
I'm looking through a spotting scope. I can see its muzzle. I can see everything. And like I said, this thing does not look like any booger I've ever heard explained or nothing else, because it, body wise, yeah, I could see booger. And see, at the time, I didn't see I didn't see the hands. I wasn't looking at the hands. I was looking at the head's what drew my attention, because it looked like you took the head off of something else and stuck it on a booger.
Okay.
Something that was not something that was like out of a movie, and stuck on. And the head was just, to me, the head is one of the things. It just looked bigger than what it was supposed to be. It did not match, and I'm dumbfounded now. And like I said, we're talking. We're not, nothing else. We're not trying to move forward. And this thing kind of started sniffing the air, and it turned and just went right off that bank, right into that creek.
Not to cut you off, but so yeah, for the audience, just to be really clear, this creature you encountered was completely different physically looking from the original one that attacked your car.
Oh, yes, it looked nothing like. All right, and for everybody to understand this, when I say different in size, so you can get a rough guesstimate in my head of how big this thing is. Everybody's seen Twilight. What the Indians turn into on Twilight, the wolves. Think of that, seeing that in real life, coming at your car, but with a lot shaggier fucking hair.
And that was the first encounter.
That was the first encounter. The second one, if anybody's ever seen Dogman Soldiers, when this thing comes after the captain, and it comes upstairs and stands up in the room, think of that with a lot more hair, but that similar head looking.
Right.
That tells you how much difference. I'm like, what in the fuck? Excuse my language. That is because, like I said, this all happened. Probably a minute went by. Well, after I figured out that this is not a normal booger. I don't know what this is. Never seen nothing like this. This is just freakier than what I thought. What I saw first time.
Mm-hmm.
It turns and goes off. Probably a minute went by. If it was that long, it couldn't have been longer than a minute. Well, anyway, I go back. We leave from that area. We back out the same way we come back in, because my mind now is like, okay, shit's just getting weirder. I'm seeing shit that I've never have heard of before, never have seen before. What the hell is going on here? So I called the person that I'd called before that told me that what I'd seen. And I actually did a show with this guy, because he was more interested in doing shows than he was actually helping people. I did not know that at the time.
Right.
I called him back, and I was like, hey, have you ever got a report of anything that looked like this? And I told him and described it just like I just described it to you. And he said, oh, yeah, that's a type 2 Dogman. I said, whoa, hit the brakes. Oh, whoa. Wait a minute. You said the first one was he said, yeah, that was a type 1. He said, the other one you saw is what they call a type 2. He said, then there's a type 3 that's a little bit smaller than that, that's more man-like, that's more the military. I said, whoa, I ain't done. Why didn't you tell me there was more than one of these things and they look different? That might have been, that's need to know information, especially in what I'm doing. Now, I hadn't told him what I was doing. When he found out what I was doing is exactly when I just said what I said. I said, that might have been some need to know information before I started doing what I was doing. He said, well, what exactly are you doing? And I told him, and silence. He said, you're doing what? I said, I got a team together, and I'm trying to figure out what this thing is. The first one I saw, and how actually dangerous it is, and if it needs to be took out. I said, because I just believe this thing is trying to hurt people, trying to kill people. I said, now you're telling me that. He goes, oh yes, and the one you saw is more dangerous than the first one. Oh, great. That's really need to know information. And then I asked him, I said, well, do you have any researchers or anything around, or somebody I can send hair samples to or whatever, so we can get, I'm trying to get evidence like we're talking about doing with the system we're doing now.
Right.
Documenting this. Still at
Yeah.
this time had no intention of doing or it going the direction it went in. And he told me absolutely no, he didn't want no evidence sent to him, nothing else. He said, let me know when y'all get back how everything went. Okay. Didn't know how long we were going to be out or how much longer this was going to be. Several days went by. And one of the things we had been doing at this time was we had actually went to a guy that was selling rabbits to people to start up as renewable resource for preppers.
Okay.
Well, we bought a bunch of rabbits. Anytime you're looking for a predator, live bait's always the better thing. We fixed up these traps, and we're leaving these rabbits all over the freaking place as bait, and leaving trail cameras and stuff like that. And that worked a little bit, but it didn't work the way we wanted it to, because we lost a couple cameras. Cameras were took down. Traps were tore up. But see, some of that stuff could be blamed on Bigfoot too, because he's known to do the same stuff. And like I said, at the time, we didn't know what we were dealing with. We didn't know about the second one until that happened.
When your team's out there and you encounter this second encounter at approximately, you said 300 yards?
Yeah, it's around 300 yards.
So at that time, and it's sniffing the air, what was did it break off at that point and then you set the traps, or what was the interaction from that moment?
No, it just turned without no interaction of no kind from us. I don't know if it figured out where we were by sniffing the air, or it just knew we were in the area, and it left.
And it left.
It jumped off in that creek, went across the creek into the thicker cover, and I don't know where it went. It left.
So then at that point, you start staging your cameras and traps.
No, we'd actually started staging cameras before that.
Okay.
We hyped it up, especially in that area, after we had our sighting.
Okay.
And then I was told it was supposedly a type 2. So that went on for 4 or 5 days.
Okay.
And in the last day we were out there, we were actually going to go check trail cameras and check to see if something had messed with any of the bait traps, because see, if nothing touches it, you got to feed this bait. You just can't leave it out there,
right?
Or turn it wild, because it doesn't hurt to turn a tame rabbits. It don't take them very long. You turn them loose, they're fine in the wild.
And Vault, Miss Edwards from the audience is asking, could you describe its face and ears?
I'm gonna get really into that here in just a little bit. I can describe it really well. And it didn't take no binoculars or nothing to see it.
Right.
Like I said, the last day we were out there, we actually were going in to go check trail cameras, traps, and like I said, we were trying everything we could think of. Anyway, we start in. We parked. You walk a little ways. It's a big rock. It was like a rock quarry right there, where they'd set up these big white rocks which you put against the banks of rivers and stuff like that. The Corps of Engineers and stuff do to keep washing and stuff. Well, there's a bunch of them out there. It's like a rock quarry of these things, different sizes. Well, that overlooked these two valleys that we were going to walk up. That was our last fallback. Everybody, if anything happened, we got separated for whatever reason, everybody's supposed to meet back up there. That's what we call the Alamo. Everybody meets back there. All right. We start across we leave some supplies that are too heavy and we don't really need. Like I said, we leave them there because that's our fallback. If we need them, they're back at our fallback. Because there's nobody, we hadn't seen nobody else for weeks out there. So we wouldn't worry about nobody taking nothing. And the way we left it, that's not like it's laying out no. But anyway, you got to go across this one little, I call it a meadow. It ain't very wide. And it's a little stand of trees. It's probably 20 or 30 foot wide, probably 40 foot on, 40 foot one way, 30, 40 foot the other way. It's just a stand of trees that you got to go through till you get to this other opening that opens way. I'm talking about it's just acres and acres of openness that goes into these stands of timber and rock outcroppings and stuff like that. That was the way we were getting in there. And as we go across the first meadow, we start into that little group of stand of trees, and it's pretty good sized pine trees and oak trees, and it's just a stand of trees. The way we're in like a triangle formation, a wedge, but it's a reverse wedge. One is on the left side, one's on the right side, and then one's in the middle, tailing. We're going up through there as the first two almost get on the other side. I'm at the back of the wedge. As I get into the stand of trees, this damn thing comes out of the trees right dead in the middle of us. I'm talking about right in the middle of us. All of us are well armed. Stuff that I guarantee you none of y'all, except for you, have access to or food with. But the way it came down out of the trees, we couldn't shoot at it because we were in a crossfire. Now, this is one instance. I'm going to say this now. I believe this thing somehow, I don't know how, where, who did it, why they did it, or whatever. If this thing wasn't trained, it had some, it was very, there's no way it could have done it. Too many occurrences happened for it not to have been trained, because one coincidence is one thing. When two comes up, it's kind of getting, iffy there. Three, no, something's going on. Four, oh, hell yeah, this is not coincidence. That was just one coincidence. It come down out of those trees, right in the middle of us, right in the perfect spot where we can't fire. It's got us in a crossfire. Immediately, one moves off, which is Tank, moves off to the right. Natalia is up on the other side. She moves off towards the left, and she's trying to circle out and away so I can fire and she can fire. Because Tank is actually trying to do exactly what we're supposed to do, exactly what he's trained to do. He's falling back as Overwatch to the Alamo.
Explain to the audience.
Explain what now?
Overwatch.
Oh, Overwatch is where you have someone dedicated to their long-range weaponry or radio communications, where they can radio back and have either artillery drop, air support. They're in a higher vantage point, and what they're supposed to be doing is covering and telling what the other teammates are doing and what the enemy is doing. It's basically relaying. And like I said, with Tank at that time, he was fall back for Overwatch because Tank is a very, very, very good shot. He was falling back for Overwatch because Tank had brought in one of his toys, a specially built 338 Lapua that was special. I say Lapua because that's the closest thing and the easiest way I can describe to people what it is. But it's not a Lapua. It is a special purpose, special built rifle that he had custom built, that he even has to have custom rounds built for it. He fell back to that position because this gun will reach out at 1,000 yards and shut down any engine block that is known out here on the roads. That's the easiest way I can tell you what this gun is made for, and the reason why he falls back to that position. Because anywhere in them valleys that we would have went to, he could have reached out and touched you if he needed to. He falls back to that to give us cover and for Overwatch. Like, this thing is freaking massive, and think of a polar bear gone crazy on crack, werewolf.
So how tall would you estimate it to be?
Oh, this thing right here was well over. I'm gonna say 7.5, 8 foot, somewhere in there. Okay. Maybe bigger.
When it jumped in the middle of you, causing the crossfire, how close was it to you at that point?
Oh, at that point, to all of us, it was within 30 yards.
30 yards?
Yeah, 30 yards. Like I said, we had spread out, but like I said,
right.
We spread out for like that for several different reasons. One is we're looking for evidence and stuff. So if we set out like that, if you're looking for something or somebody, you spread out.
Right.
You're actually walking in it's not a grid or nothing like that, but you spread out because you can cover more people can cover more ground.
Yeah.
But
Overwatch.
Yeah, like I said, and we spread out like that. And if anything happens, it's easier where we can fire in different directions and not overlap fire on each other and crossfire.
Right.
All right. Like I said, now when this thing jumps down in between us, we can't fire. Tank takes off to the right. He's circling back out and around to go back to almost where we just came from to get into a position of it where he can see and help if he can. Natalia takes off to the left. She takes off in an angle to the left and starts to circle around. Now, there's a major waterway that ain't very far from us. So so far she can go out and go around. I am standing still at the time because I'm waiting for her to get out of the way of fire and this thing to figure out if it's going to chase Tank, is he going to chase her, or is he going to stay here with me?
Right.
Well, guess what it did? It stayed with me.
Stay with you.
Yeah.
You look
Ding, ding, ding.
delicious.
Yeah, I had, for some reason, I had T-boned it all over me.
Right.
Well, as Natalia gets out of the way that I know I cannot be aiming at her. This thing, like I said, it's not paying any attention to her. It's not paying attention to Tank. It is focused on me. It's locked on me. It is, and the way it looks is like I told you. Think of Wile the Coyote thinks he's done cornered and he's fixing to eat the fucking excuse my language again, the road runner.
Right.
He's doing everything but licking his chops and glaring at me, and I cut loose with my weapon. And as I cut loose my weapon, I can't go the direction Tank just went, because if I go backwards and over that way, then I'm going to be firing towards the direction Natalia just went, and I don't want her firing back at me. So I'm kind of going at an angle. I'm going backwards and to the left, and I actually stuck myself in a box. I couldn't get away because as I'm keeping walking back, I realized I done walked into an area. I done backed up into an area that it ain't very wide. I don't know how wide. It looks like it. I believe it was a little bit bigger than what I thought it was, but to me, it looked like it was the size of a freaking postage stamp. It is a 20-foot tall freaking bank of nothing but just boulders and rocks. Every time you go to try to go up, they roll out from under your feet and stuff. And I'm thinking, I can't do that. I'm going to wind up with a broke leg, and I'm really going to be in a screwed off position. And I'm steadily going backwards. I'm steadily firing to the point where I've done fired all my main weapons ammo. I'm dry. I reach up and grab my pistol. And this thing, like I said, has done, it's never been further than about 30 yards from me. It's closing in. It ain't running. It's just steadily, it's taking its time. It's enjoying itself. You can see it on its face. It's like, I'm going to get, this is the thing. I'll get to that in just a second. Because you told me something I never thought of before.
What's that?
Natalia, I'll get to that. Natalia now is steadily trying, she's zigzagging, going back and forth. She can't go completely around it because I'm firing in that direction. So she can't go behind it, because if she does, she's going to be in a line of fire.
Right.
And she's steadily firing at it. And she's laying down some rounds on this sucker too. And the rounds are impacting. Probably not all of them, but the rounds are impacting. But it was doing nothing. It was like shooting a bear with a freaking Daisy BB gun. What it acted like. Or better, say that again.
What caliber was she shooting at that point?
Oh, she was shooting AK-47. That was her preferred. Yeah, she loves the Calistoclaw. I cannot pronounce it. I'm getting tongue. Calistoclaw. Yeah.
The standard Russian version.
I'm shooting. What now? Say that again.
You saw a report?
Oh, I could hear her. I could hear the damn report of her weapon. Anybody that's ever been shot at or been next to an AK-47 going off, there is no doubt what just went off around you.
Right.
They have a distinctive cycle and a distinctive report. That there is no doubt about what it is. I'm shooting
an animal. Or the creature?
You can see it impacting because it's kind of, it's not flinching, but it's kind of like moving to the. You ever seen a bear getting honey, and when bees get on it, it kind of shakes or whatever? It don't really act like it hurts it, but
Right.
it's kind of like annoyed. That's
Annoyed.
what it's doing. Yeah, it's doing is these rounds are hitting. Now I'm going to tell people what I was shooting. I misspoke or whatever when I told this on Jeff or whatever, and some people tore me a new one because I think I actually called it because most people don't know what the hell a car 16 is. They've never heard of it. It's like some foreign whatever. A car 16 is a M16 carbine length model. That's what it's called, a car 16. I think I accidentally called it an AR-16 or whatever, but most people don't know M6. They know AR-15 that listen to us. But I want to clear that up. It's a car 16.
Okay.
I've done all right. I've got 3 mags on my chest. I've got 3 mags across me, and I got 1 in the weapon. I've done emptied all that. Now I don't know if I need to say this or not or what. Do I need to say how many rounds were in each mag?
No, we don't need to go there.
Okay, well, you know why I asked that because anyway, I have 3 pistol mags. I have 2 spares, 1 in the weapon. I am down now to the last pistol mag, and there's this big boulder the size probably, I don't know, think of a small car. It's probably that size, big boulder, just right in the middle of this little area. I don't know if it's one that they hadn't broke up yet or what. I don't know why it's there, but it's there. I'm behind it, and I'm trying to stay behind it to keep something between me and it. And I'm shooting this thing with a 9mm. I can see I'm close enough. Like I said, it's just on the other side of this boulder. It's what, 20 feet away from me? Not yards, 20 feet. I can see the impact of the round hit it, kind of flatten out, and I'm close enough. I can see like it'll every once in a while want to get hung when it flattens out because the way it's flattening, it may get hung in a hair or something and then kind of fall down. I can see hairs flying off because when a round hits it, they're cutting it, kind of like cutting them off or whatever. It's not going into the hide. It's not knocking meat off. It looks like I'm hitting a freaking nylon vest is what it looks like. And then all of a sudden, I hear the report go off of that 338. And if anybody has ever been around one that is went off, it sounds like a cannon just went off because that thing has got some, especially his, because of the muzzle brake he's got on it, and it's hot loaded. I'm not going to tell people what it is, but what I say by special, because it's going into a lot of detail. I don't even know if he wants the details now publicly. But like I said, it's special built. I've told John what exactly it was, how it was built, and he understood it. And I said, it's a special purpose built rifle. But like I said, it is, it ain't no doubt when one goes off, even a regular 338 Lapua. John, you can testify that they're loud.
Oh yeah.
Loud.
Yeah, that Lapua was a beast. And for people are talking in the chat room, a 50 BMG is just not practical to carry around in the field very often.
Nope.
Most snipers will tell you that. It's just doggone too heavy, and so is the ammunition, frankly. But a lot of snipers choose the Lapua, the 338 Lapua, because it's a much smaller platform, yet the ballistics are still very high. Yeah,
it's very, very, when I say it's just right under 50, especially the way this particular gun is, the rounds are designed and it's shot. Yeah, you're talking about, like I said, it'll shut an engine block down in 1,000 yards. It'll just destroy it.
This was not a
no, it's not one you just, but let's put it this way, the weapon that he had designed, just a weapon, he's got over $10,000 in. That's not counting the ammunition that he had to have special dies and everything else made to make this.
And the ammunition is especially hard as well, correct?
Yeah. It's hard. Like I said, it was designed to stop armored. It's designed to go up against hardened targets. Yeah, basically. Yeah, let's put it this way: at the distance, if he'd have flew it by your head, now he's probably 200 yards away. That's the other thing. Everybody wants to talk about the 50 BMG. This thing has got almost the same ballistics. If he flies it within 1 foot of your head will pop like a coconut.
Right.
But just from the kinetic energy of it
Tell them about
flying
the
by
rings.
the what now?
The rings.
Oh yeah, he has a problem with it breaking scope rings. He actually has the front of it. To help with it, he's got double scope rings on the front, and he can't get doubles on the back. He has one on, just single on the back, and it will shear the bolts off of scope rings. And I ain't talking about no cheap scope rings.
Right.
I'm talking about just the rings. Just the rings are probably about $200.
Right.
Like I said, it shears the impact of it will shear the bolts after time off on the scope mounts. But anyway, I hear that go off. I hear that go off. As I hear it go off, I see an impact on this creature up on its shoulder. And it's just, I'm close enough to it, and the impact when it goes off, it's just it looks like dust flies off of it, but it ain't dust. That's blood. It's just a mist of blood. And the expression in his face of this thing, right before that happened, this is what I was going to tell people, and I didn't think about this until you told me. Like I said, I'm thinking, to my point, if this thing reaches and grabs me or whatever, I'm going to save 1 round for myself, because I'm not going to be eaten alive. I done determined that. Anyway, this thing, the way it's looking at me is like it's just grimacing. It's enjoying itself. The eyes is the biggest thing I remember. They look like they almost had this human look to them, and the look in its face, it was enjoying what it was doing. And in my head, I'm thinking, this thing is thinking. Now, I ain't saying it did this or whatever, but John told me he thinks that this thing might have put this in my head. I don't know why I even thought of it at the time. I won't never forget it. I won't never forget it.
Telepathic abilities.
Well, this thing, what I could think of as I'm looking at it, this thing is like, I'm fixing to eat you. I'm fixing to do. It's like a song.
You were hearing that playing out in your head.
Yeah, it's like a song, like a little lullaby, and it's nothing you can do. I can go along with it just like it's going on right now in my head. I won't never forget that.
Whenever I interview people that had encounters, I always ask them, when you had that encounter, what was going through your head? What were you feeling? What do you think the thing was trying to communicate to you? What was your impression? Because they always have some kind of communication that it gave them. And I tell them, even if you just call it your intuition, that you better follow what that communication is, because it's probably very accurate.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. I never put it together with what, like I said, it's like it was a lullaby. I don't do lullabies. Right. Anybody, you like, you met me personally. I'm not a lullaby kind of person. In my head, it's like a song. I'm fixing to kill you. There's nothing you can do. But kind of like that.
Yeah.
And I never thought about it before. I wouldn't have thought of that just normally. So I don't know if it was just me freaking out or this thing actually doing whatever it was doing. But when that freaking round, when that weapon went off and that round impacted, I didn't think of hearing nothing or whatever. The look on this thing's face said millions. It was like, oh, fuck, I'd messed up.
Right.
It goes to turn. It does not want to play with me no more. Because it does.
That first round hit him?
Yeah, that first round hit him in the upper shoulder, the right shoulder. As he goes to, as he goes to turn. Now, the round should have, it just zipped right through him. I'm talking about just, and I figure it might have helped him turn, but just the look in his face. He actually, I don't remember seeing any genitalia or nothing, because I wasn't focused on that. Okay. To be honest with you, I don't remember that. I remember the eyes, the face, and that's what I remember, because that's what I was looking at.
Right.
As it goes to turn, like, it's done to turn. It's done flip modes where I'm fixing to eat you. There's nothing you can do about it. I done screwed up. I got the hell out of here. These stun guns, that hurt. it turns like it's gonna leave, and as it picks its leg up to rotate around, another round goes off. It gets hit in the upper right thigh, and gets as it's turning, the momentum of that round hitting, it is spun it, and it kind of went around and kind of went down on not on all fours, but on one leg, and it kind of trying to push itself back. Now it is scrambling. It can't get away fast enough. It's clawing the ground. You ever seen a dog on linoleum that can't get no traction to go nowhere?
Right.
That's what this thing. It's dirt flying, rocks are flying everywhere. It's trying to get some yonder. As it stands back up and it's heading towards this waterway, it ain't very far away from it. It's heading towards this waterway. Right before it gets to it, another round goes off, and the impact of where I seen the round hit was, it would have been just to the right side of where, if it went on a person, if you put your hand behind your back, put it even with your belly button, go all the way around to your back, right to the right of the spine. It hit the ground, made this god awful noise, and rolled off in the water, and that was the last time we saw it. Now I was like, why later on I asked him, I said, why did you hit it where you, he said, dude, I was so close and I'd had the scope turned up trying to figure out what the hell was going on. He had made an error in judgment when he set the gun down, because the last time he'd been shooting it at longer range. He had it turned, he had it cranked all the way up. Well, and he grabbed it, come up trying to help us out.
Parallax.
He didn't think about cutting it back down. So as he pulls up, all he's doing is shooting at fur. Right. Because
it's fur if he was trained on it, right?
Yeah, it wasn't like he was aiming for different body part. No, all he was seeing was fur. He said, look, I was putting rounds on that damn thing to put it down.
Right.
Is what I was doing. He said, I was just trying to get it to either I was trying to kill it or get it off y'all. And like I said, we never saw it again. And then I'll go into this a little bit, because it was alluded to on this other person's show, and somebody else has alluded to this. Jeff knows what I'm talking about if he's listening, Mr. Jeff. All hell broke loose then, because it wasn't very long. We couldn't get out of there fast enough. Law enforcement of multiple different kinds showed up there. Because, like I said, in the middle of nowhere, it sounds like all hell has broke. World War III has broke out.
And by the way, before I forget, I've heard other stories from other witnesses who claimed they were in that area that night, and they said that they reported to the police it sounded like World War III was going off in those woods.
Yeah, and some of the people that's gotten out close to, they still don't know exactly where we were. Like I said, where we were wasn't supposed to be anyway. But we were not only asked to leave, we were told to leave the county, and we were told if we came back, they would find enough charges to put on us that we would never see free daylight again.
Right.
So,
and this is military was there as well.
Yeah.
You have wildlife and fisheries. You've got multiple law enforcement agencies, and you said all of them are fighting over who gets to put you in jail first.
Yeah, everybody was fighting over. No, we got jurisdiction. We got anybody that's ever been in law enforcement will know when multiple people get together, law enforcement of different ones, and when they think they got a big case or it's going to be, something big is going to happen about it, they fight over who actually has jurisdiction.
Right.
Luckily, because of what I used to do and the people I know, and because of people in the cat tag, we started making phone calls, standing right out there on the side of the road in the middle of the woods, and to the point we got a hold of somebody that would listen to us and get us to the right person, where they called, and like I said, basically it was told, look, y'all let them go. If they make them leave, if they come back, then y'all can arrest them.
Right.
Let's put it this way. I burned a lot of favors up that evening.
Right.
I'm pissed off a bunch of people that don't want to talk to me no more because it caused a lot of problems.
Mm.
Other problems occurred from that because of evidence we did collect.
Right. That's what I was going to get to next.
Mm-hmm.
So, people are always asking, why don't you take photos? Why don't you take video? And when you're fighting for your life, that's not the kind of thing you're thinking about. They did put out cameras, but for whatever reason, with this thing's obvious training that they've reported it was able to avoid the cameras and avoid the traffic.
It was able to avoid camera trap. We did have some hair samples. We had some fecal matter. We had we even got some of the blood and stuff like that from where this thing had been bled out and stuff. Natalia was the smart one that did that. Because like I don't even remember why she done it, but she took a rag that was in her pocket and wiped along the side of one of those that big boulder whenever he first hit it. I guess the blood spray from it, she wiped it off and she put it in a bag. And see, one of the officers seen that bag because, like I said, look, when they first pulled up there, you talking about guns drawn and all that. Look, they didn't know whether to shoot or what was going on or where we were going to kill them. Because, like I said, they rolled up on something from a freaking movie scene from, all hell's breaking loose. You got people running around in damn flak vest and AK-47s and
Right.
tanks standing out there with a freaking cannon. And
he's scary. I'd arrest him just because of the way he looked.
Oh, dude, they wouldn't get near him. They wouldn't get near Tank. They were actually asking Natalia. It was funny because Natalia's got an accent, and you can tell she doesn't speak. She speaks English, but you can tell she doesn't speak really good English. They were actually getting her to talk to Tank because they're like, just make sure your buddy stays calm. Just remember, cool. Just ask him to please move away from the weapons.
Right.
It was that part was hilarious. Like I said, there's this one guy. He's like, just make sure he stays calm. Does he need a drink? Does he need a snack?
Right. I'd be like, listen here, I need both now. But so you were able to collect physical material that you intended to send off to labs to try and test to confirm. But what happened to that physical evidence?
Because of when I went back to the person that, like I said, I'd done these shows with, when he found out exactly what happened, I sent him proof of this evidence and snapshots. I even sent him proof of about 14 fucking different kind of patrol cars and everything else out there because I had snapshots of that all out there to let him know this is not a bull crap. This actually happened. It freaked him the hell out. He's like, his whole thing now was, we got to tell this story. My thing was, if we tell this, somebody else is going to go try to do this. Either I'm going to get in trouble for them going out and doing this, being somewhere they ain't supposed to be, or somebody's going to get killed. I don't want that. We almost got killed, and we kind of knew what the freak we were doing.
Right.
You take Uncle Bob, Mo, and Larry and put them out there. It's something bad. That's a recipe for something bad going to happen. Right. I told him, I got mad. Why didn't you tell me this thing was as dangerous as it was supposed to be? And he's like, well, really nobody's ever tried to do anything like you did.
Right.
Well, if you'd have told me some of the stuff that you're telling me now, I wouldn't even tried that.
Exactly.
I'd have went out with a different outlook.
And so what happened to the physical evidence?
Well, when it was told, this other story was told, I mentioned, because I said, I tried to give you some evidence. And you're like, no, I don't want it. So I am looking for someone to turn this evidence into to figure out, what we're dealing with.
Right.
Wasn't very long after that. I don't really want to go too deep into that, but someone showed up. Someone showed up at my house.
Okay.
And I'm going to leave it from there because that needs to stay where it wound up at.
Okay.
And basically we wasn't exactly forced, but we were given I was given an option. It wasn't I was given an option where my whole world could come to a halting end and bad things happen to people that I care about. Not didn't just happen to me, but happen to people I care about. That it just wasn't worth. Just wasn't worth fighting trying to hold on to it.
Right. So
So
basically, Alphabet Agency shows up and demands all the evidence, and
yeah, and
not
so
polite.
no, there was no politeness.
Right.
The politeness was giving me a heads up. This is fixing to turn really, really bad, not only for you, but a lot of other people, just to get our points across.
Right. Right.
So
Again, now, can you describe in detail the best you can what the creature, the second creature, looked like as far as
yeah,
its face, its muzzle, its ears, the how the hair was?
yeah, because I've done it the other night with you on the phone. Like I said, it's the easiest way I can tell you the head, the way it looks. Now the body doesn't look like it. The hands don't look like. The hands look like a giant freaking. Think of a baseball glove.
Okay.
Something that size, but that looks. Think of a raccoon's hand. You'll look up a picture of a raccoon's hand so you get an idea. They kind of look like a human's hands, but they don't.
They look very human, right?
Yeah. The thing though that I remember the most about the hand is, like I said, it looking like a giant raccoon hand, but the thumb looked like it was not in the position, or it looked like to me, from what I remember, I think the thumb was further back towards the wrist than what it should be. To me, to make it look more, it looked human, but it didn't look. It was odd shaped, but I think it was because the thumb was set further back.
Okay.
On the hand. It was still opposable, but I think it was set further back. I don't think it worked quite like our hands, but close enough. The face looks just. The face looked like I said, if you look up that movie Dogman Soldiers, and look at that thing, think of that head right there, not the body, because the body ain't got nowhere nearly enough hair. And go look up, what was that one movie you pulled that still off of that had I told you, I said that really looks closely to the body because of the hair, but put the other head on it. Yeah, Van Helsing's werewolf thing. Think of that body, but with straight legs, and like a Bigfoot, but put the head of the
human bending knees.
Yeah, put the head, take the body of the hair like off of the Van Helsing creature, take the head off of the Dogman soldiers, and put it on like Patty, and there you go.
Right.
The ear, the way I described it, even to John, I said it looked like a giant, kind of Anubis head, but more. It looked like the head of Anubis, but more like a German Shepherd or wolf, because the muzzle was long, but it was wide. The craziest, gnarliest looking. I bet you the canines were 3 inches or longer, and just as wide as your index finger or wider. Top and bottom. The teeth just didn't look like they're supposed to fit in the mouth. That's what I'm saying. This thing looked so crazy that it was like it was mixed up of a bunch of different crap. The ears were long, but they were spade shaped, but they were long, but they were wide, if that makes sense, wide open. And right at the end of them, it had tufts of hair like a bobcat would have coming out the top. What it looked like to me. I might have been looking at it wrong or whatever. To me, that's what I remember. That's what I saw. I'm pretty good at what observing stuff like that. That's what I was trained for. Observe and report.
Right. It's part of contractor, I guess, special forces training to be able to observe and report. We had to be able to observe, be able to tell what kind of airplanes, what kind of tanks, and be able to report on any of those given things.
Well, I took long rides. I got schooled in so much crap. I figured out real quick into my career. Oh man, I was like, this is the reason why I had a lot of schooling and a lot of training, because I listened to older people, because I was raised by older people, and older people are really freaking smart. They got old. They got old for a reason. They lived long enough to. especially in industries like that and being around stuff like that. This one older guy, I'm talking about old guy, every time a school would come open or whatever, he'd sign up. I don't care if he'd done been to it 5 or 6 times. If a school come up and they let him sign up for it and they sent him to it because they
Correct.
paid for a lot of them, he would go.
Yeah. Right.
And I asked him one day, I was like, do you just love you love being a student? You love being, going to school? I wasn't being a smart ass, but I was just trying to figure it out. He looked at me and started laughing. He said, you hadn't quite figured it out yet, have you, boy? Or he didn't call me boy, he called me something else, but I'm not going to say what he called me. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, well, I get paid the same amount whether I'm sitting in the classroom, I'm standing on a gun range, or if I'm standing out there letting somebody shoot at me. I said, what? He said, it pays the same whether you're in class or you're out in the field. He said, which one are you likely to more survive, the classroom or the field?
Right.
I was like, this son of a bitch is fucking a genius.
Yeah.
So I started every time I don't care. Look, you know how many times I went through impact training school? 5 times. If they let me sign up for it, I went to it. Because like I said, you were at least going to be in class most of the time a week. So guess what? That means I had a week that nobody was trying to kill me or intentionally. They may hurt you in some of the schools, but they ain't trying to kill you.
Right.
So, and I got paid the same. Plus I got to meet these neat people and get all this extra training. One of the training schools we went to was, oh crap, what is the name of that? It's actually a military basis where there's a lot of sniper teams that go to it. As a matter of fact, every time I went to the sniper competitions, it was there, and I cannot remember. It's at the Red Beret training ground. What the hell is it called? It's in Missouri.
We talked about it earlier. I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, I can't think of the name of it anyway. I probably shouldn't be naming it, but anyway, that's where if you are a Marine sniper, that's where you go train. I don't give a crap what, and they train Army sniper. They even train Navy snipers there, and a lot of people don't realize there's Navy snipers, but there are.
Yep.
But you go there to get trained. One of the exercises they have is they march you out into this field, and they got random stuff just laying all out there in this circle or in this circle-ish area, and they march you around. You're actually got your hands on the shoulders of the person in front of you, and they tell you, they march you around. I think it was 5 times we went around, complete circle around all those objects. Then they march you back to the classroom. It's hot as hell in there. You're sweating as hell because you never walk really anywhere. You're always made run every fucking where.
Right.
And you have to sit down and you have to not only list everything that was out there that you've seen on the ground, you have to draw out, make a diagram of everything in the position it was in.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
they grade you on how much, not only many of the things that you named, but if you got them in the right position or not.
Right.
And that determined whether you graduated at school or not. And this is a thing that my company started doing. If you didn't graduate, you had to pay for the school out of your own pocket. So that was an incentive. Some of these schools are really freaking expensive, like several thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Right.
So that's a really good incentive to pay attention and graduate, or you're going to be spending a lot of money.
Right.
And like I said, that's the reason why I say I'm pretty good at what I see. I can describe and stuff because, like I said, it was drilled into me.
And I'd asked you about the eye shine, and what was your response to that?
Oh, I ain't told this a whole lot or on very many places, but eye shine. I don't like telling this because this is one of those key things that lets me know when I talk to somebody if what they're telling me it's one of the ways that I tell if someone's actually being truthful with me is because I can ask certain questions that they don't know. It means nothing, but it does to me. The eye shine, depending on what kind of light you're shining at these creatures, even a Bigfoot, will actually determine the reflection you get back, the color. I think what you're talking about is like the bluish kind of purplish hue looking color that they give off. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh no, not necessarily. I was just asking if you were able to see any eye shine.
Oh no, it was daytime. No, it wasn't no eye shine. It was total freak. I could see I could see the coloration of the iris in his eye. That's how close I was.
Okay, wow.
And like I said, it was that's one. They're as big as ping pong balls, but they look so freaking human like.
Right.
That's they don't look. You know, if you look at a dog, you're looking at a dog's eye.
Right.
Or a cat. It didn't look like that. Or I didn't get that off of it. I was looking. Yeah, I was looking. Yeah, this thing had intelligence to it. You could tell.
Right.
That it had, and like I said, the things that it did. Like I said, let's start with when it came down in between all of us.
Right.
All right. For the people that don't understand, that was a strategic tactical move because it had to sit there in that tree silent without drawing any attention because it's in a tree, yes, but it's in the open. If it moved or whatever, it would have caused us to look up and see it, and we wouldn't have went past it. The team members in front had to go past it. It had to sit there, wait for us to pass, and get in the opportune time and the position. So when it came down, it was between the three people where we couldn't fire upon ourselves. We couldn't fire upon it because we would be in a crossfire. Now, I don't think it's a given, excuse me, but what me and Natalia had didn't really hurt or phase her. It didn't act like it. And what Tank had really wouldn't have fucking phased it because that dude, I'm not going to even talk about what the hell he had. I told you what he had and you laughed like hell. He loves that damn thing and I can't stand him. But anyway.
No, I can't stand him.
Well, he just leveled to him. He calls it his little pistol, but it ain't a pistol. That's to tell people it is actually I'm going to say it's smaller than a carbine, but it's got shoots a pistol caliber, but it ain't a pistol. But anyway,
you can say what it is.
Well, it's an MP5. He loves the MP5. He 90% of the time he carries bigger guns, so that's his backup sidearm.
And it was a 9mm, not even a 45.
Yeah, it's a true MP5. It's I think it's like a second generation H&K MP5.
No, that's a brilliant weapon for CQB, but it's not for the field.
No, it's actually meant for a way he would use it. In
that movie Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you got the guy was it Clubber Lang or whatever?
I think that's his name.
That played against Rocky in the first two Rocky movies, you know.
I think that's his name.
Yeah,
he's running around with two of them.
Right, that guy in Predator movie had two MP5s in the woods, and that's and we would laugh all the time.
Yeah, that is not an open terrain weapon. It's just it's not feasible. Right. Yes, it's more accurate than a pistol, but you're shooting a pistol cartridge.
Right.
Now, the reason why he loved and carried that thing is, like I said, you got to think about it. Usually, he's carrying an M60.
Apollo Creed. Somebody corrected me. Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, usually he's carrying a squad automatic weapon. That's what he usually carries. So it's not a very good. That's definitely not a good weapon to try to clear a room with, unless you just spray it down.
Right.
But if he had to go into an area where he had to fix or if he was setting up for Overwatch, his long range weapon is not a weapon you clear a room with. So that's where he got carrying an MP5, because if he had to go into a small structure or whatever, now MP5 is actually pretty good for that.
Right.
It's really good. Small, compact. Him holding it, it looks like he's holding a freaking Uzi. It's just it looks hilarious when he holds it.
A lot of snipers don't carry secondary weapons just because of the weights. They might only have a pistol outside of their actual rifle.
Yeah, well, he carries that MP5 and several magazines for it, and like I said, he calls it his little baby.
Right.
I hate it freaking good. But anyway, that's what he's actually walking around. Because I said, we never intended to actually come up on anything or this to happen. So never thought nothing about it.
Right.
Like I said, as soon as I think the only person that thought about it when this thing come down as big as it was, like I said, he automatically hightailed it back to the Alamo to get the big boy. he didn't even try to fire at it. He trucked it back. He's like, no. But anyway, like I said, the weapon. That's why I tell people, Bigfoot's the same way. I've heard of a lot of people shooting at it with 5.56 and stuff like that. That's the other thing. This is something that I didn't tell earlier, and I'll tell now because I done got teed off because a lot of people in the comment, not these comments, but other comments from when I've told this story, they're like, "Well, why did you go out with basically a high powered 22 to go do?" Because nobody ever told you that I was shooting a 5.56 or a 22, and I don't shoot a 223. I hate a 223. If I carry something in that is not the caliber I'm fixing to tell you, it's usually a 5.56. But I was actually shooting 300 blackout, which is a 30 caliber round, a heavy caliber round.
Right.
Now as Paul Harvey used to say, the other part of the story. Because like I said, you don't know how many times I've been teabagged in the comments or whatever. Why would you take? Because I never told. Yeah, yeah. Because it's after
the comments.
Excuse my language, y'all, but y'all know how much that teased me off for the backstreet keyboard people that sit back there that don't know and act like they know. Like I said, I never said it was a 5.56. You assumed that when you heard the kind of weapon it was.
Right.
Never thought that it could be changed. Mr. Bell, how many different calibers can you think of just quickly off the top of your head that is actually chambered off the AR-15 platform? We'll use that one.
Oh, I mean, there's several. And now they're coming out with new ones almost every day.
Yeah, I can think of 7 just right off the top of my head that you can actually use the same magazines.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing you do is change the barrel and the bolt.
No, that's the same. I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people in the comments section have been talking about the 50 cal Beowulf, but you brought up a really good point, and I've heard another gunsmith I spoke to also spoke about the 50 Beowulf, and a friend of mine just built a 50 Beowulf. But the problem with the Beowulf is as amazing as that round is that it's not good for supporting the
platform.
The platform can't support the pressure. Is that correct?
It's the pressure and the recoil. You're beating that gun apart every time you pull the trigger. It's the pressures of the round. It is the I've seen recoil. Buffer tube springs shoot out the ass end of the gun. It's just because it's not designed that weapons platform is not rugged enough and strong enough to hold up to the pressures and the recoil. Now they've come out with a new round, especially for replacing that and for replacing the 416. I mean, not 416.
The recoil spring.
Well, now I'm talking about the caliber. It's this the 4. Shoot, I just drew a blank. Yeah, the SOCOM. This round is right in between the 50 Beowulf and the SOCOM. It is actually a 350 Legend. It was designed especially for the AR-15 platform. When I say designed especially for it, it uses the same 5.56 magazines. The only thing is, instead of it being double stacked, it turns it into a single stack. All you do is load them in there. You don't do nothing special. You change the barrel. You change the dadgum not the sear, but the fire
bolt.
Yeah, the bolt. I just drew a freaking blank. I'm bad about doing that. You change the bolt. Actually, you don't even have to change the whole bolt. If you take the bolt apart and change the bolt face, you can actually just do that. The reason why is because the bolt face on the 300 blackout actually has dual ejectors. I mean, the 350 Legend has dual ejectors.
Okay, so let me ask you.
I think they should make all bolts with dual ejectors, but that's my opinion.
Right. With the 50 Beowulf, since it's so popular and so many people are using that, is there a way to make it safe if you change the recoil spring and upgraded the barrel? Is there any way to make that a safer platform or no?
Well, I'm not going to say no. I'm going to say what I've worked with. I've worked with everything from cheap components to really, really expensive components.
Right.
It's not that I've never had one within the first magazine fail, not unless there was something drastically done wrong putting it together.
Okay.
I'm counting that out. I'm counting one out that you can fire probably 5 mags out of and never have a problem. You go to fire the 6th mag, the first round of that 6th mag, you may have a failure to eject. You may even have a complete lockup because you done fired so many rounds through that weapon with that. It's like firing a freaking jackhammer, and that platform is not designed to fire that. I've even seen them strip the heads of the bolts off.
Right.
Because when the bolt goes in, most people don't realize it actually rotates.
Right.
To lock up. Well, I've seen that head, instead of rotating back, it actually just strip out from the pressures in the round. Well, if that happens, your barrel is no good. Now your bolt is no good.
Right. And I've had other gunsmiths tell me the exact same thing when I inquired about the Beowulf with them. Now, what about the SOCOM? Can you upgrade to make that?
You can upgrade the SOCOM. The thing about the SOCOM, it never really took off in the civilian world to the point where the rounds is available that you need, and the parts are available. It costs so much to build a SOCOM and build it the right way, one that is actually usable.
Right.
I need to get that understood, because the actual way you build a SOCOM and make it usable, you make a piston gun out of it. A gas impinged SOCOM just doesn't perform like it's supposed to.
Right. Okay.
And
we're coming up on 3 hours. Is there anything else you want to add or share before we go?
No, man, but this has been fun. I want to come back again if you let me. And like I say again, if I've offended anybody with my language or something, I apologize. But this is the thing.
An invitation with me, Walt.
All right. Well, this is the thing I'm starting to tell people. Y'all warn to the truth. The way I talk is the truth. I don't try to sugarcoat. I don't overthink. I can't remember the stuff I'm supposed to remember. I have a hard time remembering. So, like I said, you want the truth. This is what you're going to get when you get the truth.
Right. Yep. You heard it, folks. from the vault.
Well, I'm just saying. I tell people I'm not for everybody, and I'm definitely not for children, and I'm definitely no damn role model. Please don't do the stupid shit that I do, because it is not smart. I already know that. I do it any damn way because I don't realize the outcome until it happens, and sometimes it's not the best.
One last thing before we get off, plug your show.
Well, I've got a new show that's going to come out. Some people, Dark has dropped.
I'm cutting it off right there. It was the end anyway, and he's talking about his new show that he doesn't have anymore due to the drama and health problems he's going through right now. So no point in plugging that right now. Plus, it was the end of it anyway. But anyway, I hope everyone enjoyed that. I loved, like I said, playing these is bittersweet for me because I really miss doing those shows with Vault. All the opportunities of, I guess now looking back, is the good old days where I got to co-host shows with Vault, and he's such a pleasure. We feed off of each other really well. We've got similar backgrounds, although mine's nowhere close to his. But I worked in the SF community for a while and Intel, so I know I can relate to a lot of stuff he's talking about. Although I haven't done all the high speed stuff that he's talking about. But I understand where he is and where he's coming from. I understand all the terminology he uses for the most part, and we feed off each other real well, and he's always just fun and entertaining. It doesn't matter. Like at the end of the story, he just goes off on guns. And when he and I talk on the phone, a lot of times that's all we do is end up talking weapons and talk hours on weapons, regardless of whatever the topic was. So, and it's fun to be able to do that or have someone to do that with. That's few people can hang on those levels. And I'm no expert either. I have a general knowledge across the board and in those areas. What he was talking about with Tank, he didn't want to share this real well at the beginning or when he was talking. That's why he was kind of alluding. And he's talked about Tank's custom 338 Lapua. It actually wasn't. It was a special modified proprietary round, and it was basically a 50 caliber that was sized down to make it um, more practical and weight to carry in size. So he compared it to a 338, but it really wasn't a 338, which is a fantastic round. And like you said, at closer range is very similar ballistics. All right. Just like a 300 Win Mag can have very similar ballistics of a 338 up to 400 yards. And then the other one, stretches out beyond that, especially with the kinetic energy. But anyway, he really had a specially designed proprietary round rifle built just for him by a company that was basically a small version of a 50 cal. So it really was a 50 caliber round. It might have been a little less, but it was more than a 338. So that was the key. And it was a proprietary thing he had built. But yeah, Vault talked about the differences of the two creatures and how the first one he encountered looked like just a giant wolf. That was the size of the vehicle, if not bigger. And then it was trying to attack the vehicle at speed. And the second one was completely different. The second one had knees like a human being. It did have a lot of hair, like the pictures of Van Helsing that I put up, or the movie. Most of those pictures I put up were movie props. I think I used one or two, maybe real pictures, but most of those are movie props, and that's just because that's what he was actually describing was creatures from Van Helsing, from the Wolfman movie, and especially Dog Soldiers. And if you haven't seen Dog Soldiers, go get a copy of it. You can get it. It's on iTunes, but I recommend buying a hard copy. I know that maybe not the thing anymore. I always have a rule: hardware over software. I like the real copies over the software stuff. So, but that movie is fantastic. It's great. It's a good low budget horror film, and they did a great job with that movie. It's like a hidden gem, you know. I even have on my shelf over here. I've got a Dogman front Dog Soldiers action figure. It's like 12 inches tall. But anyway, I'm trying to think more in the story. So I heard a report of a guy who reported that he heard what happened that night in that area, and he reported to the police. And he said it sounded like World War III going off. He said it was fully automatic machine guns, and that's why Vault and his team got in trouble, because the when he got out of the forest after dealing with this creature, you had the local sheriff, you have the local police department, you had like ATF, you had the National Guard. He said the National Guard was there. You had other federal agencies that were there. I mean, all these guys lined up, and he said they were all arguing over who was gonna be the one to be able to arrest them. The sheriff's like, no, I'm arresting him, and the feds are like, no, we're arresting him. I mean, they're all arguing about who got to arrest him first and whose jurisdiction it came under, and they were using all fully automatic machine guns. But Vault was able to get on the horn and make some calls and call in some favors as he did. And I believe I know the person who he called. I won't name that. But the person who he called made a call to the governor of the state. And the governor of the state called those called the police on the scene and said, "Listen, y'all can arrest him if you want, but I'm just going to release him out of jail as soon as you do. So you might as well just let him go." So that's what they did. They verified their credentials. They verified their background due to calls they received. All right, proven that he's not full of BS. And they also verified they all had licenses for the fully automatic machine guns that they were carrying. Given the field they were in and the jobs they were doing, they were licensed to have those fully automatic machine guns. Now, they didn't like the fact that they were using them all out in the backyard, you know what I mean, in the woods in their local area. And that caused a lot of drama and a lot of trouble. And like Vault said, even with his own people and his own friends and connections, it caused a lot of drama. There has been a ton of people that have tried to find this location since then. And even Dark Waters can tell you um, he's been threatened by the local sheriff for people because he put information out on his show and people showed up looking in those areas trying to find where this took place. And the sheriff got so mad about it, he called up DW one time and threatened to put it to, he's like, dude, I'm gonna find a way to put charges on you if these people keep showing up out here looking for this. Just trying to put some fear in them. And it worked. It worked. So you got to be careful. And I highly recommend people don't go looking in that area. Whether you find dogmen or not, you're going to find a lot of police that will find a reason to put you in jail for being out there. They are tired of that kind of stuff, and they've had to deal with it a lot since the stories have gone out. All right. So I don't even name the specific areas myself, for that reason. Also, Vault said they had scat evidence. They had flesh, they had blood, they had fecal matter. I said scat, right? They had hair samples. They had tons of physical evidence of this creature, and they were sadly they put out online that they had this, and they were going to send it to labs to be tested. That wasn't so smart of a decision to do. The Vault told me the sheriff rolled up at his house with a unnamed suit federal agency, and they basically threatened. They said, "Listen, we know what you have. We know all that you have." And he says, "You either turn that over to me right now, or we're going to put you in a jail cell, and we're gonna throw away the jail cell with you in it." That's what they told him. And so begrudgingly, Vault gave him the physical evidence from the creature that they had collected. He said it had military. It blew his mind that it kept going through his mind that this thing had military training. And if you listen to Jeff Nadalny's channel with Victor, as I brought up many times, and I'd suggest you do, Jeff's a good guy. He has a good channel. Used to be called Dogman Encounters with Jeff Nadalny. I think he's changed it recently to something else. But you can still find it. Just look up his name. Not Vic Cundiff. That I'm gonna be nice. But Jeff Nadalny, good guy. He puts out great content. But Victor on his show was talking about how they actually, in their breeding programs for the government, they actually train these creatures in military training and tactics, and then they release them into the wilds for their purposes. And so that's kind of what Vault was alluding to, as he was so impressed that these things had actual tactical training. Like it jumped in a position between them to where they were on a crossfire and they couldn't shoot, giving the creature the advantage. Because if they shot, they would have hit each other. So they were probably in I believe a lazy W, they call it in formation. And so lazy W with I think three of them, it would have made more of a triangle. So this thing jumped in the middle of them, and they were on a crossfire. That was one of the things that struck out to them. Another thing was they set out all these traps. No, for somebody in the comments, this was not in anywhere near the LBL, but that's another very dangerous place that people continue to go look through. I heard of someone recently that just went there and with his wife camping out there, and they said they heard some crazy stuff out there, and it was very scary. I do not recommend going camping in the LBL. Vault will tell you there's still a lot of dangerous things in the LBL, and it's worth staying away from if you want to live. I know where these creatures are right here where I live, but the problem is you go looking for them, you're probably not coming back. And it's hard to get to areas like swampland and stuff like that. So it's not like it's easy terrain to get around. But I know where they are. You're not coming back more than likely if you go looking for it, you know. So, but anyway, trying to think anything else to add to the story he told. I'm the one that told Vault about the differences from Jeff Nadowny's channel and Victor on the Dogman versus the werewolf, and he had never heard that before until I explained that to him, and he was like, "Man, that makes total sense." Also, y'all are familiar with Jenny and Joe that I did a show with, and they were in the chat room tonight. Jenny's still commenting on there, and they had their Dogman encounter where the werewolf attacked Joe in his trucker rig, right? Y'all know that story, right? And it's been all over the internet in different channels. It's a very popular story, and rightly so. Well, a similarity is Joe said he heard in his head that this thing is saying, "I'm going to get you, and there's nothing you can do about it," or something just to that effect. And that's the exact same thing Vault said, and without hearing about Joe's story or Joe knowing this about Vault's story. Vault said this thing's coming in on him, and he's saying he's hearing the words in his head saying, "I'm going to get you, and there's nothing you can do about it." So that's not a coincidence. In law enforcement, you don't believe in coincidence. You do believe in conspiracy because that's the nature of how evil operates. If conspiracy doesn't exist, evil doesn't exist. If evil doesn't exist, the devil doesn't exist. And what's the devil's greatest tool? Convincing people he doesn't exist. That's also convincing people that evil doesn't exist, or his followers don't exist, or that conspiracy doesn't exist. Watch out for those conspiracy theorists. Listen to Elon Musk when he says, "Hey, you know, there's not too many conspiracy theories that haven't turned out to be true." You know, and Julian Assange, who just got released from prison recently, thank God, he said, conspiracy is not conspiracy theory anymore once you have the proof. So, you know, but anyway, I digress. I'm trying to recap the story. Anything else I can remember? There was another story Vault said from the time that the first creature attacked the vehicle to the one they tried to go looking for that creature to put it down because he was pissed off and went after his family. And they didn't find that. They found another creature. Well, Vault said the way that they chose the area to look for to find that creature, they were looking at local news stories and seeing if they could find any information on where to look. They knew a general area, but it was still really big, so they were trying to narrow it down. Well, this is how they narrowed it down. There were some prisoners that escaped from a local prison, and they were hiding in the woods. Well, they saw something in the woods that scared the crap out of them, and they all came running out of the woods to an officer or park ranger or something to that effect, and they were like, "Hey, we're escaped prisoners. Please, 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 dear God, please take us back to jail. We want to go back to prison. We want to go back to prison." And this officer's like, "Okay, this is a little bit odd. Why are y'all wanting to go to prison? Why do you want me to take you back to prison so bad?" And they're like, "Man, there is something out here that scared the crap out of us, and we want to get out of here now, go back to where it's safe in prison." That's freaking hilarious. And so when they heard that in the news, they're like, "Oh, that's the area we're going to." And sure enough, they found more than they bargained for. And this thing, they had a incendiary grenade. All right, and this thing, when you pull that pin, it'll destroy anything in a I think a 50-foot radius. I mean, it's maybe not quite that far, but this is an incendiary grenade that's designed for like blowing up equipment and stuff like that. And they modified it a little bit, but the idea was they said, "Hey, if we get attacked by one of this thing, We're going to pull the pin because I know I'm dead anyway. I don't want it to eat me, but I want to make sure I kill the damn thing. Well, when Tank pulled back to Overwatch, which is like he said, the military term for like your sniper position, who Overwatch is, they sit at a position usually at height or distance, and they're watching you through the scope to make sure you're safe. And if there's any threats, they can either call you on the radio or they can take care of it themselves. That's Overwatch. All right. So Overwatch can also be birds in the sky or satellite, but usually you have Overwatch on the team that will that's designed to break off and give cover basically to the team, or they can also act as scouts for intelligence as well. Another sniper role. Anyway, Tank pulled back to the Overwatch position once they got into the fight with this creature. He broke off, went to the rear. Now, unfortunately, he didn't have anyone watching his six. So it's a good damn thing there was only one of those creatures, all right, at that time. Dogmen, they're usually not one alone. They're in packs. But the werewolf is solitary, unless it's with a mate or a child. It's solitary. And so they were lucky. But a werewolf's a whole lot harder to deal with than a dogman, and more intelligent, stronger, and faster. All right. Where the dogman is dangerous is it's very violent, and there's numbers. There's lots of numbers of them. So that makes them kind of like it's like a lion going against a pack of hyenas. The lion is undoubtedly stronger. But you get so many hyenas, the lion can only defend off so many. There's power in numbers. Anyway, so Tank went back to the Overwatch position in the rear, pulled up his rifle, but the creature was so close to Vault, he was afraid to take the shot because he was very afraid that he could hurt Vault. And like he said, like Vault was describing, those ballistics at that range, even a foot away from that bullet going off, can cause severe damage to you. All right. So he was afraid to take the shot. This thing was so close. And Vault said it was coming in on him. Like it had him cornered, and it was closing the distance. Well, Tank said he noticed that Vault was reaching up on his lapel to grab the pin on that incendiary grenade. And that's the moment where Tank said, well, Vault's getting ready to bite the bullet, so I don't have a choice. I got to take the shot. And he took the shot, and that shot rocked this creature. Now, like Vault said, it seemed like this thing had some type of body armor. That's correct. I talked to Jody Cook from North American Dogman Project. He said that the Secret Service pulled him aside one day. He told me this in person. And they showed him bones, skeletal bones of these creatures, of dogmen. And they said that they had chest plates that were solid chest plates. And that the bone on these chest plates had a tensillary strength that's like stronger than steel. All right. So that's why all the time you hear people talking about shooting these things, especially with average or smaller calibers, and they don't even flinch. It does nothing. It doesn't even bother them. It might hack them off a little bit, but you're not hurting them. That's I'll get into more of that. Someone asked me recently to do a show talking more about that kind of stuff and what you can do to protect yourself from these creatures. We're already past 2 hours. I'm gonna wrap it up, so we'll save that I'll do a different show on that. I have covered that in the past, but I'll cover it again in a show coming up soon. But that said, once it got hit by Tank's proprietary special rifle, that was more like an artillery round. All right, and that wounded the creature, and all of a sudden Vault said its face and attitude changed from "I'm gonna get you" to "Oh crap, I effed up." And at that point, and he shot it twice. He was trying to aim for the spine, something snipers do. He was trying to aim for the spine to paralyze the creature, but because the creature is moving, he missed. I think he hit it in the was it hip or shoulder, and then he hit it in the thigh. One of the two. He hit it one time, and it like freaked out the creature. He hit it a second time, and it flipped backwards. All right, and then it took off in a scuttle. And they went trying to track the thing because they wanted to put it down, but it got to a creek, and they lost all. They even had a blood trail. Vault said that when the creature was shot, you could see a spray of a plume of blood in the air. not to mention flesh and hair flying. You could see the spray of plume of blood like on a cloud. You know, but they went chasing this thing because they were there to put this thing down, not just to wound it. And but once it got to the creek, they lost all sign. It's called when you're tracking something, you look for sign. They lost all sign, and they were not able to find it from that point. And that's when they left the forest, and only to emerge to all the police officers waiting for them. So I'm trying to think. That's the majority of the added details. Trying to think if there's anything else I covered. He did say that they set several traps out for this creature, and it was so intelligent, it would pull bait out of the traps like a rabbit and bite its head off, and then leave the carcass on top of the trap without ever setting the trap off. And that's something that freaked them out. And he talked about the length that they went through to set these traps. It was like something out of the Predator movie. All right. Like they were even covering their scent with to block anything from being able to get in there. Oh, look at that. Guess who just joined us? Vault. Vault, I was just closing the show. I've been waiting on you to come in. I was hoping you might stop by. The audience loved hearing of you in the chat last week, but yeah, I was just I finished your second part of your video, and I was just wrapping up. So, but everybody say hello to Vault, our guest, non-guest of tonight, who just became another guest by popping in the chat, I guess. So, Vault saying he had family visiting, so he was busy. So we understand that. But Vault, what I was saying, what everybody has been saying is how much we miss you, man. It sure was fun. I miss all the times where we used to co-host and hang out doing shows together. And it was always fun and interesting having you on. You're absolutely my favorite guest I've ever dealt with or had on my show. And I miss the good old days when we were able to hang out and do shows more often. But health comes first, so I understand that. And we got to deal with the things we have to deal with. So that's life. Vault, I just finished telling the second half of your show or your story, and then I've been adding material to that for anything else I could think to add to it. I went into how you narrow down the area by finding the prisoners that turn themselves back in. I went into more detail on Tank's rifle. That was a proprietary round. I went into when y'all came out the forest and everyone was waiting to rush y'all. So it was a crazy night. But here's the thing: if I can pull off, I'm trying very hard right now, and it is a very hard process, especially since things like COVID and then on even after that was all over with, you had the writers' strike in Hollywood, which shut down Hollywood a second time. But I'm trying very hard to make Vault's story into this movie before dark, and I think it's going to be a very good movie if I can raise the money to have it made. But that is very difficult, especially in the light of today's industry. Somebody from the local film community sent me an email this week or text message saying that they're shutting down the community here where I live because they just can't get enough interest or work to get anything done, which is really sad because Louisiana started Hollywood outside of Hollywood in the U.S., not including Canada. That was a different deal. But I know the whole story on that. But unfortunately, Louisiana's dropped the ball on that because of some crappy governors we've had and stupid mistakes that people just not understanding how much the movie industry can bring into the state. And other states like Georgia, even Tennessee and Texas have picked up the ball and they're rocking and killing it right now. So, but I'm trying to see if I can't get this film made. If there's any chance I can get this done, if I can't, I'm gonna try and turn it into a novel and use that to build up interest for making the movie and maybe doing a what do you call it, like trying to raise money kind of thing through like, you know, these donation sites and that kind of stuff from the fans. Have a fan created movie, you know. Um, I did talk to a producer, and we're looking at a budget of trying to do $5 million, which in the scope of movies is not a lot of money. When you're the one trying to come up with the money, it's a lot of money. So 5 million is what we're shooting at bare minimum. And but that's it's complicated. If I can pull that off and get this movie made, and I think it'll do very, very well, then I would like to do a documentary film on the original Booger Valley story with Vault, if he's so inclined to do so. Once that's done, I would love to try to work with Vault on doing a part 2 to this movie. And that part 2 would be this story we played tonight about his encounter in the woods with that dog man. So that's my goal. That's what I hope to accomplish if things go well. Um, that's I think I could do a fantastic job making an entertaining movie about Vault's encounter in the woods that we just covered. So I think that would be a fantastic part 2 to this one. But anyway, everybody, it's already 2 hours and 40 minutes. So I'm gonna cut it short. I've got to get up early in the morning, and I want to thank everybody for coming to the channel. Please keep Vault in your prayers and his health, and for peace in our country. Turn to Jesus. He's the only solution we got. All right. That's why we're in this mess, is because so many people turning away from him. Vault, thanks for coming in. Hope you get better. Stay in touch. Everybody, God bless. Have a good night and keep the lights on.